Hello, everybody, and welcome to
Woo!
Recipe for Reality. We call this
Here
a
we go.
marathon week where we're covering so much Big Brother and Survivor starting, and Disney with the Stars is starting, which we're not doing on the main channel, but I'm doing on TikTok. And Matt and I did our own special video of our top returnee prospects for the old seasons of Survivor. So you're getting a lot of Recipe for Reality this week, but I think that's a very good thing because it's a very exciting time of year.
Sure.
Zach, we're here at Survivor 40 Several. How you feeling?
40 several.
40 Several, that's right.
Survivor
In
40
honor of
several. I feel
Mr. Zelensky.
I'm feeling good. Just for the record, just so everyone can see, I've come prepared.
Oh,
For my own
he's got
research.
notes. He's got
I've
notes.
done my own research this season. I was speaking to a couple of people about this. Dylan, I've never really quite recovered from my Zach Wertenberger prediction.
Yeah.
It has haunted me. It haunts me daily. It's certainly seasonally. And I'm not talking about winter, fall, and spring. I'm talking about every season of Survivor. So
Yeah, which
I
you get
did
twice
try
a
to
year.
do a little bit of. I tried to do a little bit of research. I'm not sure where I've landed. There's a lot to process here in front of me, but we're gonna see. We're gonna see how we both feel, and we're gonna see how the winter prediction shapes up today.
Absolutely. I'm actually going to pull up the Survivor cast on my phone so I can talk about them as I show a picture of them to you guys. I'm doing the same thing I did last time where I'm taking their little minute and a half clip from CBS on their Instagram. I condensed it to a copyright friendly 45 seconds apiece. And we're going to watch each video and kind of give our commentary based on what notes we've also prepared. And then at the end, we're not only going to pick a winner pick, but we're going to predict the boot order. Because as we do on this show, we predict every single week we do a boot order. And if the person who goes home is in 18th place for Zach, he gets 18 points. 5th place for me, I get 5 points, and Zach will be in the lead until the very last episode where we switch it up a bit. But it's an ongoing contest throughout the season. It's not like Big Brother, because Big Brother's easy, because it's like the people who are nominated are going to be the bottom 3 every week. But here, it's different because we don't know who's on the block every week. We don't know who's even winning immunity. There was a trailer that came out that shows one tribe holding an immunity idol. So I can share that information with you, Zach, if you want to just keep it fair. In the preview, we saw good old Sue holding the immunity idol, which means blue wins at least one challenge. So if you have anyone in blue in the 18th spot, you have the chance to change it now. We will go through it first, and then at the end give our predictions. But just to keep it honest with everyone, that is something that you can't look up. It's just something that was in the trailer. Sue is holding the idol, which means blue at least survives one tribal. Now, if that's a shot from a future, hey, is that Cookie?
Okay.
Oh, that's Reese.
Don't do that. Don't ruin my chair, please.
If that happens to be a clip from a future episode, then that spoils even further down the line. I imagine it's from the first episode, but either way, we did see a shot.
Very least, Sue should not be in either of our 18 spots.
Well, anyone from blue. So she's carrying the idol, which means the blue tribe wins at least one immunity challenge. So that's just keeping it out of fairness, which means red and yellow are in contention to go home first. But maybe blue does go first, and then we see blue carrying the individual idol. Maybe that's a clip from a future episode. I don't know. Either way, let us get into it, though. Zach, I'm just going to go in order on how I have it on Entertainment Weekly, and we're starting with Teeny Chirichillo. So here's Teeny's Teeny video, 45 seconds. Let's watch the video, and then we'll talk about Teeny. Here we go.
My bucket list consists of everything from day 1 to day 26 that could possibly happen. I want to do everything. I grew up dressing like a boy, wanted no attention for it, had to distract them from having questions about me. In college, I was surrounded by people in sororities. Working in the technology industry, it is alpha male sales bro personalities. That's really taught me how to just befriend any type of personality, and even people that I don't like so much. Like, I know how to make them like me. The energy that I'll bring forth is a pickpocket from the Oliver Twist universe, stealing their trust, their hearts, their spot in the final 3. Before they know it, they voted for me and I won.
There is Teeny, our first one we're talking about today, from Jersey. So repping the Jersey. She's a Jersey girl. She's quirky. She's queer. She's from Jersey. She's a super fan. I mean, I feel like she ticks all the boxes that I want to see in a player. Zach, what do you think about Teeny and her first impressions here?
Okay. Spoiler alert, and I think Dylan knows this. We've talked about this before, but so as everybody knows, Dylan and I have played in some online Survivor orgs. Very, very fun, very cool community. One of the first people that I ever made friends with Her name is Haley Keener. Shout out Haley Keener. I know you'll watch this. She broke into the world of live reality games, which are
LRPGs, right? Is that the
LRGs?
LRGs?
So ORG versus LRG. And Haley last summer played in an LRG called, not this past summer, but the summer of 2023, called Survivor Pennsylvania, Survivor Gettysburg, and she was the she was fifth place, and Teeny was sixth place.
Wow.
So there is a connection in which I know a little bit about who Teeny is as a player. I know a little bit about how Teeny is as a person beyond just like this really cool interview that we got. I do love her. Based on her interview, some of the things that I wrote about Teeny, I called her a social chameleon, because some of the thing that she really highlighted was her ability, because people don't know exactly how to address or like find out what kind of group she's involved in. You know, she's queer, but she was in a sorority, but in being with a sorority, she was able to make friends with a lot of like the jockhead meatheads. Like, she has such a good handle on how to be able to talk to people. She's very high up on my list in terms of people that I'm looking at. Her going out as the sixth place finisher of a Survivor LRG is pretty unbelievable. It runs very similarly, just on an accelerated scale. And if she can play that way on an accelerated scale, imagine how she plays on the real thing. So I am very excited. I think in terms of her tribe, just in seeing where she is, I think she's going to be, I could see her kind of running the shots with a couple of these different people, fitting into like a little bit of like these different pockets, kind of maneuvering through people. It'll be very cool to watch.
Yeah, I really like Teeny. I think Teeny's biggest asset is her social ability and her chill factor. I don't think she's ever going to make people paranoid. She's not going to be the one running around the island being like, what's a plan? What's a plan? What's a plan? She's going to be very chill about it. I think if she can get over the hurdle of the first few weeks being one of the weaker people, because I don't know how she's going to be in challenges. She strikes me as someone who might be a liability in some of the bigger strength challenges. But if she can prove that she's like a puzzle person, again, we really don't know challenge strength until we see the island. We thought Yanu was going to be incredibly strong in challenges, and they ended up losing so much, even with Tiffany, even with Q, even with Banu and Jelinski, who's so tall. Like, they've really crumbled. So I really don't know who's going to be the first tribe to go to tribal. I think the red tribe has a good chance of being obviously one of the first two, because we saw blue with the idol, but I do think Teeny is okay as long as she can make the social bonds. If they go for strength, which I hope they don't, I could see worries for her in the first two tribals she's at. But once she gets past like two tribals, I could see her really cruising. I could see her being an endgame player, someone we see in our finale, kind of like that Carson-esque figure that we can kind of see ourselves through as like the nerdy super fan. My only issue is also like when she gets to the end, because she's so chill, so lax, is she going to be able to plead that case to the jury in a way that's, you know, vindictive enough to secure the votes over some of these bigger personalities? Because she's a big personality, but still comes across more chill and introverted compared to so many other people. So it's really going to be, does she have enough friends and respect socially to get the win, a la Kenzie, versus someone who's a little bit more strategic like Charlie? Because Charlie was just, I think, a little too quiet to where he didn't really sell himself at the end, whereas Kenzie wasn't as strategic, but was really good and personable. So I think she could kind of be a mix of both in a way, where she has that social game of Kenzie, but that strategic game of Charlie. I think it'd be a great bridge, but she could just be the Ben who's just there for the vibes that doesn't get the respect in the end. I think she could be any one of those three players, but spoiler alert, I have her going pretty deep. So I'm very excited. Any other thoughts on Teeny?
No, I'm very excited to play, or I'm very excited to see her play. It's about the closest I think I've ever come to like knowing a person on the show, and I don't know her, but so many people who like
she's
I
a
care
friend
about
of a friend.
you.
Yeah.
Very cool people are excited about it.
Yeah, and I did do a little bit of digging on the Rob has a podcast. You know, they've done like these extended 15-minute interviews, and a lot of them have been saying who they're getting good vibes from. A lot of people are getting good vibes from Teeny. One person has not. We'll talk about it later. But they also have not been getting good vibes of several people on their tribe, and I can see those several people banding together more so than going against Teeny, if that makes sense. But let's go on to another person who I believe is on her tribe, which is Rome Cooney, aka the job applicant for the new Jeff Probst role. You'll see what
I know exactly what you mean.
Here's
Spoiler alert, Dylan, to do my research, this is what I watched. So
yes, there we go. So we're recapping. Exactly. Yeah, we're getting on the same page a little bit, but this is also for the viewers to see the videos, even though Zach and I already have. But here we go. Here's Rome.
Give us like a 15-second narration of a challenge going on.
We've got two teams, right? Two squads. They're both going out. Wait, let me restart this because I got to think of a challenge. What I do in esports is what Jeff does on Survivor. Jeff does all the shot calling, and that's exactly what I do in the video games. The second the challenge starts, I'll mute it, and then I'll start commentating over the challenge, and then I'll rewind it, and then listen to how Jeff does it. I mean, Jeff is the GOAT of it, so you gotta learn from the best. I feel like people's first impressions of me are gonna be, man, this guy is loud. I don't know if this guy's got a lot going on upstairs. I got a lot of things up my sleeve that a lot of these players aren't gonna be able to see just from looking at me, and so I'm gonna be a very, very scary player, and I'm by far one of the biggest threats out here to win this game.
All right, Rome. I'll open with this one. I love Rome. I think he's someone who, in this clip, comes across very gimmicky, like he's like going out to be this thing that is very artificial and not real. But listening to his like more extended interviews and stuff and hear him just talk, like he's just so in love with this game. But the way he carries himself, he's just such an energetic presence that sometimes it comes across fake. But I could see him really, especially with the tribe he's given, I could see him clinging on as like a little brother to some of these other figures who want to kind of play that type of game. We'll talk about another contestant who wants to kind of find her brother in the game. I could see him being similar to anyone who's watched this season, Sean Rector from like Survivor Marquesas, funny, but also on the strategy, but not necessarily a target or a threat. I do think later down the line, he becomes a bigger threat because he is a good talker. I think he's someone that you would try to snipe out in the mid-merge if you can get there. He has a very high ceiling, very low floor. He could be like your JD, who is just so energetic, but just if the tribe keeps losing, he's just a liability at a point because he talks so much, because he even says he thinks he might annoy people. But I think that self-awareness that he could annoy people will get him with the right group. And if he does go far, I could see him being like this really good, like right-hand man to some of your bigger power players. I don't know if he's going to be the power player he thinks he is, though. I think he thinks he's going to be like calling a lot of shots and making a lot of crazy moves. I think he'll make crazy moves, but they're not going to necessarily be like effective ones. I think they're going to be all for show, and it's going to end up blindsiding him or backfiring, but I don't think it's going to happen for a while. I think he's going to be someone who we're going to love seeing play in terms of energy and character. But I don't necessarily think I'm considering him as a winner, though. If I'm rooting for anyone out of these first few interviews, I like Rome a lot. I want to see him go far because I do think he has potential, and obviously he's going to soak up so many confessionals. He's going to be really a character on the season, but not in the Q way where he's like a little aloof and not necessarily in on all the strategy. I still think he'll be part of the strategy. It's just I don't think he'll play the optimal strategy, if that makes sense. Right. But I would like to hear your thoughts on Rome.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going based off of, I have their pictures and their tribes pulled up next to me on my big screen. If I'm going off of just based on his ability within his tribe, I think Rome's going to probably be someone that they're going to have to look to in challenges. He seems to be one of the more athletic people, one of the more challenge. Like more optimal within challenges. You're gonna have to leave me alone. It's
for anyone listening on podcast, Zach's cat is trying to make her co-host
always.
appearance.
So I do think we could see him kind of. It's going to come down to a scenario of how useful is Rome to what we do. And the other thing is, and I agree with you, Dylan, I do think he probably thinks he's going to have a little bit more of a pull than he actually will. But I think with on his initial tribes, on the red tribe, I'm just calling them red, yellow, and blue.
Yeah.
On the red tribe, I could see him having a little bit more of a hand with someone in particular. On that,
like in terms of like working with.
In terms of working together.
I think we have the same idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Like running, kind of finding this way of like they call the shots, and they kind of find people to bring under them. It's when they either swap or merge that I think that luck is going to kind of run out. And I think that Rome's loud personality is going to become more of a deterrent rather than something to keep him around like that. Oh, like, like you were saying that like little brother, so fun, so exciting. I don't know. It could depend on, the game on day one is very different from the game on day 10 too. Like that's a very big thing, right? People's energies change, people's outlooks change. So I could see him going, I in my mind probably about to merge, and then that's when things start getting dicey for him. If not like a merge boot.
You know who he reminds me of, but in a more like likable sense is Bruce. I think he's gonna be someone who's just such a loud personal character. Everyone's like, all right, it's Rome. Like he's doing his thing. Then there's gonna come a point where it's like we just gotta get him out. We gotta get him out. But then like he just ends up being there because his tribe either keeps winning or his alliance protects him. But then he ends up being a good shield. Like look at some of those people on Survivor 45 that were like shielded because Bruce was such a big target. Someone like Jake, someone like
Right.
Katora, who was working against Bruce, but was still on Bruce's side. These people that, were shielded because Bruce was such a big dominant presence ahead of him. So I think
Right.
Rome could play that kind of figure where he's kind of the shield people use because he is so loud, because he is so outgoing, and because he's clearly going to be a production favorite. I think they're going to utilize that. Be like, let's
Yeah.
hide behind it rather than trying to get it out, because this is going to be someone who takes all the attention away from us.
I
So.
do think that's noteworthy, especially because they made a point to have production involved within his clip. So like clearly they like
Yeah.
him.
Oh, they're juicing him
They-
up. They love it. They
Yeah,
want him to be the next On Fire podcast co-host.
Right.
Because right now it's Charlie, and then it was Dee before that, and those are very chill personalities. But they're probably looking for someone who has like those sound bites, and I think Rome is going to be that for them. Hopefully next season he gets that On Fire job. If he doesn't, that's going to be pretty sad. But there are also a lot of commentators, a lot of podcasters in this group, so I'm very interested to see when we get to them. But next we have Annika Dar, the first one from this yellow tribe. So let's hear about Annika.
Exuberant, curious, and calculated. Calculated being my favorite word. On dating apps, one of my prompts is I'm convinced that I can win Survivor, and I've been collecting all the different responses. Doubt my skill set? Red flag. If you're mentioning players like Parvati and Boston Rob to me, green flag. I gather all of the data points, I analyze them, knowing how to move the business forward. Same thing in Survivor. I'm gonna have to continuously update my gameplay based on how things go. It took me some time to fully embrace who I am instead of trying to run away or hide from it, because I did grow up in a predominantly white area. I did change things about myself in order to fit in, and I think it's the perfect timing for me to go into a game meeting people as who Annika is.
There is Annika. Zach, what are your thoughts on Annika?
Overall, so things that I read about Annika, young and very by the book. But I did also I say young, and she
Youthful.
youthful in and also like in the sense of like what we're looking at in terms of Survivor. She seems very young in the way that she's like handling this idea of like, this is how I'm gonna play. But the other thing is, I do think she seems like someone who really wants to take control, but I do not think is actually going to end up taking control. I think she's going to be way more of a follower in the group that she's in. Like, I think she's going to want to take control. Someone's going to take her under her wing, and then all of a sudden she's just going to start going with the shots, which is not a bad thing, because it gets you far in the game. It's just when she gets too far to just be sheeping around, is she going to be able to pull out? Right? Is she going to be able to do what needs to be done in order to make herself a viable candidate to win the game? And so that's where I'm kind of iffy on her at the time, or at this current moment.
Yeah, I look at her similarly to the way I looked at Venus preseason. Venus ended up being a lot more of a social outcast than I expected. I expected her to be like the pretty young, popular one who kind of get the boys around her finger and like be a flirt and be very calculated. That really wasn't Venus. She was kind of the underdog who wasn't really like well acquainted with everyone. But the thing about Annika is that I think she has that charm that she'll be likable. Like, I think people will get along with her. I think she has like kind of the social makings of like a J Maya as well. But here's the thing is, like, I think she's going to be a much more overtly outward player in the way Venus was, but with the social abilities of someone like a J Maya. But I do agree with you. She might be a little in over her head. I do really like her though. Like, I feel like I would gravitate toward her on the island. I feel like we'd be good friends. And like, I think she has a very similar way of thinking. It seems to be very strategic and intellect forward rather than like social forward, which is going to be interesting. I don't know necessarily how she's going to bond with other people. I mean, she talks about dating apps, and I think she has a goofiness because of that. But I also wonder if she's going to be a little repellent because of that, because she's almost a little extra with the way she describes things. But I do like her. I get good vibes from her. I think in like early new era, I would have thought she could have been a sneaky like winner pick, but I think now, because they also watched Venus last season, because they've seen someone like Dee, who's a little bit of that like younger girl flirt type role, even though I don't necessarily see her as like a D. Like, I don't think she's gonna play the flirt card, but she is like bubbly. She is kind of like bubbly, flirty. You know, she is younger, and we also have to look at her tribe, and I just wonder how that tribe dynamic is gonna work for her. I could see the women getting together on that tribe, but I also think if the women get together, the two strongest people on her tribe are the two other guys. So,
Right.
and then you have John Lovett in the middle. So like, I really don't know how this tribe is going to shake out. This is the one where the tribe dynamics I'm most confused on, of like, are the girls going to band together? Are they going to
Agreed.
pull over one of the guys, or the guys going to stick together with some of the girls? I could see if the guys and girls, if it's not a gender line type alliance, I could see her honestly being left out of it. I think the other two girls are more likely to work together than work with her. But I think it's good if she can get in the right crew early on. It's kind of the similar thing I said with Teeny. It's like those first few tribals are going to be the tough ones because she's a little bit less strong physically just when you first look at her. But I think if she can find the right relationships and the right social capital, I think she can move forward and easily navigate like that middle portion of the game to where I could see her either being like around the boot area of Venus, or like as early as like a first, second boot, or I could see her being like a J Maya, like first of that like merge portion. I really think there's so many different ways she can go, but I'm not necessarily looking at a finalist, I don't think. But who's to say? I might be wrong. I would love to see my
Could always be wrong.
you know, yeah, I love being wrong. I think it makes the most fun Survivor, even though I was right last year and it was the first time in a long time. So I will hold that victory high. Any other thoughts on Annika?
No.
All right, cool. Let us move on now to TK from the Blue Tribe. This is our first Blue Tribe member here. Let's hear about TK, otherwise known as Taryn, but TK.
Even now, I just sit here and I see like ants and bugs crawling. I'm just like, what the hell is going on? So when I was 14, I was diagnosed with FSGS. It's a pretty rare kidney disease. Nothing's gonna be as bad as dying, right? So I mean, I don't really care what adversity I face. I'm in athlete marketing. My sickness and illness, I couldn't play anymore. So I just told myself, if I can't play in the NFL, I'm gonna work for the NFL in some type of capacity. You're dealing with all types of people in my line of work. I have to treat them the same and I have to work with them the same. So I'm just excited to be in all of this and just experience it all.
TK, I feel like of every contestant this season, like who do I want to sit and just chat with and like smile watching? It's TK. His story moved me. He is just such an affable presence that I'm misted in the way that like I'm misted when I watch Cerise speak. Like I'm really like fully charmed over. I have no idea how he's going to play the game strategically or physically, because he's not like an athlete anymore, because he said he had some health problems. So I don't even know if he's going to be the most physically the biggest physical asset. I don't know what his strategy with people is, other than like he is a very personable person. But honestly, it's one of those things where like I see him and I'm just misted by the social game, where I'm like, I don't see a world where this guy gets voted out in the first few tribals he's at. Like, I don't know why you would, because he's just so likable. What do you think, Zach?
Well, and I'll be honest, if I'm looking at his whole tribe, I will tell you right now, I think even after all of this, I've done a lot of like researching and whatever. The person who stands out to me as a winner pick is currently on the Blue Tribe. So for me, the two people who I think there are to watch in this game are on the Blue Tribe. One of them is TK. And I think for the reason, what I love about that interview specifically, and what I wrote about him was the two things that stand out to me are the fact that he knows how to be a middleman, right? He knows how to like kind of play the middle, make sure that he is in the right positioning to be able to like transfer information from one side to the next, like make sure that the things that need to be happening are happening the way they need to be happening. And he is always good at overcoming the odds. Like he has consistently overcome the odds. When you have a strong-willed individual, period, they are always going to perform better than someone. I will say there's someone on here who like probably is the first boot for me. I don't know, not on the Blue Tribe, but someone who just reads like the first boot to me, for the reason of they do not seem like they are strong-willed enough within the game of Survivor to win it. TK doesn't read that to me. He reads as like he could probably get carried to Final Four and then have to win fire making and then win it and take the whole thing. Is he my winner pick? You'll have to wait and find out. But I do think like there is a mist. Like you just like listening to him talk.
My winner pick is also from Blue, so I'm very curious to see if we have the same winner pick.
God, I swear.
That'd be wild. I mean, we did that for Big Brother and Survivor this year. I would love it because it means we're on the same length. It means we're both like looking for the right things. You know, we're both on the same page. But I do think TK, I think he's going to be great. My only worry is that they do see that he's such a big threat at the end and they take him out. But I really do think in the new era, what we've been seeing a kind of like trend of is like the people they want to take out toward the end are the people who are the big like strategic threats. Like you're trying to get out Maria because she has this resume, and then you realize you're like, oh shoot, but Kenzie's sitting right here. And same thing with like Marianne. It's like we got to get out Omer because of the resume. Oh, but Marianne's sitting right here. Even Gabler, we didn't think he was very social, but he was apparently a really good social player out there because they all liked him. And Jesse gets out and they're like, okay, we got rid of Jesse. Oh, but Gabler's still there. Same thing with Jam Jam. Oh, we got out Carson, the big threat. Oh, but Jam Jam's still there.
Jam Jam was sitting right here.
I feel like TK is the guy who's like sitting right there. It's like, we went after this more strategic player, but then we realized that TK just knows how to talk to people well, and maybe he'll just win based off of his likability. Like I think nowadays you don't need to have the resume because as we saw with Kenzie, as we saw with Marianne, all it takes is like one move. Not even for like someone like Gabler and even Kenzie, they didn't have one move. Kenzie didn't have a single move. She just made the right moves, little moves every time, step of the way, and that proved to be right. So I really like TK. I think he's got really good winner prospects. So he's our first like big contender, it seems, of the board. But as we go on to another blue member, we have Tiana Hollums. Let's talk about Tiana.
When you hear Hawaii, you think vibe, go with the flow. I'm hoping they think I'm just here for a fun little ride, but they have no idea what's lurking under the surface. I was a Division I college athlete, got my master's in educational leadership and policy, and I am a flight attendant for Hawaiian Airlines. I was an alternate for season 45. I was obviously pissed. However, looking back on it, I know that things are gonna work out the way they're meant to work out. As you proceed out of the aircraft, go ahead and shaka back to us because it was not personal. We still love you anyway.
And there is Tiana. So funny story, she is the alternate from 44, which as we know, or sorry, 45. Yes, 45, which as we know.
46? Oh, no, that
45, the double quit. Yeah, so there were two players that quit 45, and everyone was saying, oh, they should have just given those alternates a chance. They should have flown out, but that's not how Survivor works. Once your cast is on the island, there's nothing you can do. Tiana was that alternate. So I think this is such a cool story because it's like, what would have happened if Tiana was in that game? And I'll tell you right now, Tiana was in that game because Tiana is D 2.0. She is giving me the D vibes off the bat. Did you get that too, Zach? What are your thoughts on Tiana?
Okay. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you on that. So definitely D vibes. My problem is I don't feel like I know a lot about Tiana. Like I know that she's an alternate, which I think is going to be a very big part of her story. Right. I could see them really using it as like had to be an alternate on season 45 to be the winner of 47, right? Like that's a cool story.
Kind of like the Bruce story. Yeah, you got medevac the first episode. What does it look like to come back? It's like Tiana. Like, what does it look like to watch the person who took your spot quit the game only for you to come back a year later? Yeah.
Right. What I am worried about is that I don't really know a lot about her and what she wants to do in the game, right? She's an athlete, so she's going to be really helpful. It's probably why they're going to win challenges. She's got her master's in educational leadership, but she's a flight attendant, which is like not educational leadership. To me, that's like such an opposite. So my one thing is like, I get the D and the feeling of like, she could lead that tribe. She could like twist it around. The one problem for me is that I just truly don't feel like I know enough about what she wants to do. I just know what she could do. Yeah. So once I know what she can do, I will be more inclined to feel like she's a wild card for me right now. I think she'll be deep in the game because I don't think Blue Tribe's going to lose very often. They got a lot of athletes there. They got some good players on that tribe. I could see them just like through the game.
Yeah, I think she's going to be strong too. You know, she clearly has the background as an athlete, she said. Also, she just looks physically fit. The D comparisons come from, I mean, a little bit the accent, but also just the way she is so disarming with that smile. Like, you just want to like sit and laugh with her. Like, you don't think of her as a big threat, but then you realize you're in this alliance with her and she's calling the shots. Like, I do think that could be the potential, but I do agree. I think being the alternate and being so eager, it's like the Rome thing of like, are they going to play a little too hard, too fast? And Jeff has teased when someone asks, like, what would you say is the theme of Survivor 47? He goes, ever-ending power shifts, meaning there's not going to be a single dominant player, which is why I think someone like Tiana, if she's not in the power calling the shots position, if she is one of the soldiers, let's say, because there's always like your dictators and then your soldiers. And I think if she's not the one dictating the game, but the one kind of following someone else's lead, I think that helps, because if we think about ever ending power shifts, like we could see someone lose power and someone gain power. And she, like TK, which we just talked about, could just cruise through by being likable. So I think Tiana has some good upside. I think she has the best story right now of like, who do I want to see win based on the arc? She's the one, but I do think, I'm not just going to pick her as a winner because of the story. I would have to pick her because I think she actually has the acumen. I think she has the social acumen. I think it's clear that she's going to be a good social player, but like TK, I don't necessarily know what the strategy is going to be yet. But is that a problem in the new era when we've seen someone like Kenzie and Jam Jam who've just kind of relied on the social game and just kind of like taking out the people who are taking out you? Very simple as that, not necessarily having these big, bold Jesse like moves. So very interested for Tiana. I think she's got some big upside, and we'll see. Maybe she gets the downside. Maybe she's Hannah Rosed out. Maybe she quits episode 1. We'll see. That'd be wild. All right, so let's move on to Rachel Lamont, another alternate who I believe was the alternate of last season, because I know Jem has been posting a lot about Rachel, saying yay RL, because in Ponderosa, before the season starts, they all have to go by their initials. So Jem was like yay RL, because that's how they refer to her in Ponderosa. So this is the alternate from last season. Let's see Rachel Lamont's video.
I love people, I love games, I love like challenging myself, I love money. So like, what is there not to love about Survivor? I design user interfaces. When you're using an app, you don't necessarily notice the color or like the buttons. All of those things should feel really seamless. That's how I want to integrate myself. No one's really like actually paying attention to the fact that I'm there all the time. I'm like quirky and just like a little neurotic and a little too much at times. And I think my husband Derek is the absolute foil to my personality. I hope that I can find somebody out here that has similar characteristics and is able to keep me in check. I've been thinking about this Goldilocks complex. Not too smart, but not unstrategic. Being right in that like middle spot, that's key to winning.
All right, there's Rachel, the alternate from last season, also the namesake of Zach's wife. So I will turn it over to Zach first and share your thoughts about this Rachel. What do you think of this Rachel, Zach?
I like this Rachel. I also think alternates are a good representation of like, we're going to find out what their brains were like when they were thinking about what was going to happen if they played. I think some of the things that really like stuck out are the fact that she highlighted the word seamless. So like this idea of like fading into the background and like you forget she's there, which I do think that's a good idea. The problem is you don't want to do that too early, because if you become useless in a challenge is with only 6-person tribes, you are probably the person who people will feel is dispensable at a certain point, unless someone is working to actually like piss somebody else off. What I do really like, and I'm trying to figure out honestly on this tribe, if it's going to be on her initial tribe or if it's going to be somewhere else. She mentions one, like her husband being like the foil to her. I'm interested in what happens if she finds that. Sounds to me like someone who needs like a final two, like a ride or die, because they need someone to check like to be the balance to their check system, if you know what I mean. Like,
which has worked really well. We saw it with like Dee and Julie, or Dee and Austin. We've seen it with Jam Jam and Carolyn.
I mean, like,
most recently, Kenzie and Tiffany. So it has worked.
That could be either of the girls. That could be any of the three guys. That could be the tribe as a whole. That then like kind of like shifts downward into whatever it is. So I'm very curious. I think again, depending on who she's with, I don't think by herself Rachel screams winner to me, but if she's paired with the right person, she probably goes pretty far, if I had to be honest.
Rachel has the same exact thing that I said about Teenie and Annika, where that first tribal or two is going to be the hardest.
Yes.
And it's funny because Annika's on her tribe too. Maybe they team up together, but I think Rachel right now screams one of the weaker physical members on her tribe. But I do think you give her a few weeks in and she makes the right bond. She finds that person. I love how she said she was socially aware enough to admit she's like a little neurotic at times, which is a lot, but she knows exactly what she needs to balance that. Like she's going into the game knowing she needs that counter. And I think if you approach that to someone as an ally, like, listen, I'm a lot. I need you to help balance me out. I can help balance you out. Like let's ride or die. I think that's really good in the game of Survivor, because you know it's a stressful time, especially with 26 days. It's a rushed process. You want someone who can kind of like be your kind of, your boardroom where you can just kind of sit down and like reassess and like kind of channel and collect yourself, if that makes sense. Not boardroom. I don't know what I'm saying, but like, like kind of just like, your meeting place, your common meeting place. And I do think she is also socially aware enough to know like that whole Goldilocks complex of like not being the smartest, but not being the dumbest, not being the strongest, but not being the weakest. Like
Right.
she knows how to maintain a threat level before she's even stepped on the beach. And I think you look at her and you're not threatened by her, but she is someone who's very, very sneakily smart and calculated. I think Rachel, if she can get past those first few tribals, she is going to be a threat. And I think
Right.
she's going to be someone though that I don't know if the rest of the people are going to see her as a threat. Like I could see her getting to the end and being like a Heidi where she gets like a vote or two because people don't necessarily know her game because she's not as overt. But I think if she can explain her game, if she makes it to the end, I think she's a sneaky potential winner pick. I think she's really good. And she's from Southfield, Michigan, which is where I filmed part of Band on the Run. So like it's really
Very
cool,
cool.
to just like have that connection. I know she's also cool. She's got like kind of a little bit of a stoner vibe. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just assuming, but like I would like to just chill and hang out with her. There's a lot of people on this cast that I'd love to just like sit, chill, and hang out with.
Yes.
And
It's
I think that's
dangerous for later on for
very
them.
dangerous
Like,
for later on. And that's tough because it's like those are the people that are going to be targeted first, but those are also going to be people who are threats at the end. Like a lot of the people either feel like those types of players where they're early targets, late game threats, or they are the people who are safe in the early game because they're strong, but then become early merge threats. Like I feel like there's no one who kind of like plays the both angles well.
not yet.
Not yet, but I really like Rachel. I think she has a good shot. So cool. Let us move on to there he is, Mr. John Lovett. Who, if you're on a lot of politic TikToks and all that stuff, he is a very big podcaster in the world of podcasting, probably the biggest name they've had in the new era so far. Pseudo celebrity, TikTok podcaster, politician, Obama speechwriter. So here's John Lovett.
Very cool.
Yes,
I saw that and I was very impressed.
Yeah. But here it is, Mr. John Lovett.
This is John Lovett. He is a former presidential speechwriter and TV writer. He is now a podcast host, and he's best in small doses. Being a speechwriter is about figuring out the best way to convince a bunch of people to either come along with you or agree with you. I think that's a lot of what Survivor is. Final Tribal, it's a political campaign, it's an election. But I know that if I'm thinking about that, I'm not thinking about what I have to do to get there. And Pod Save America listeners discover that the reason I was gone for 5 weeks is to be on Survivor. They're gonna think that that is bananas. There was something really exciting about putting that aside to focus on this game where everybody starts at zero. And it'll be okay. Once I get talking, you'll see. It's worse for me than it is for you. I'm just an odd person.
There's John Lovett. It's interesting because we've seen a lot of like these like celebrities, I guess, like B tier celebrities come on this game, like Ron Clark and Mike White, Lisa Welchel, like David Wright. Even he's like a writer. So like we've seen a lot of these figures, and they all kind of have the same vibe where like early on they're just not really for the elements. They're really outcasts. But then like you give them an idol and like a survival of one tribal, and like they might begin to run some stuff.
Right.
And I think John is also like Annika, like Rachel on his very tribe, someone who could be the first boot of his tribe if they're all just like, yeah, we're getting out John. He's not meant to be here. Or he could make a deep run if you give him that chance. Is he going to win? I don't necessarily know, but like I'm excited to see him play. Like I like the idea of someone who has so much experience to kind of go into a more even playing field. I'm excited to see who knows him, who doesn't, and whether that puts a target on his back. There's just so many question marks for John. The only thing is he has been going on like Colbert and all these other shows for like election purposes, but also like he's mentioned Survivor, and it seems to be a very positive thing to where like if he used the first boot, is he going to be talking negatively about positively about his experience? Do you think it's just an act he has to put up? Or do you think he would have gotten a positive experience no matter what his placement is? I think I'm reading a little too into it. And I'm like, this guy can't be the first boot if he's like this excited about being on Survivor. But I'm also like, it's John Lovett. He could sell me the phone. He could sell me a pen,
Right.
Or he could sell me the phone book as like the greatest novel ever written. So like, I really don't know. He's a big question mark. Do I think he's longed for the game? Normally I would say no, but I also am reading a little too into the behind the scenes of like him talking so positively about his experience that I can't not think he's going to at least make it a few rounds, especially because Survivor is going to milk him as much as they can. And I hope they allow for him to get a few episodes in his tribe. I mean, not production. They can't force it or rig it. If anything, I think they would make it harder for him. But Zach, what are your thoughts on John Lovett?
So what I wrote was because I didn't know John. I don't think I've ever actually listened to his podcast in terms of like that world, but finding out he was an Obama like speechwriter is unbelievable because we know how powerful those speeches are. What I read about him was that he could be dangerous. It just depends on what people think of him from the get. And I think that for me sums up who he is and what he could do in this in this show, because I'm looking at it from the standpoint of like, I don't know anything about his status. If I am a person playing with someone who I don't know anything about who they are or what they do, and I find out, first of all, I don't think I'm necessarily intrigued or care very much, because again, like, I think he makes a good point where everybody starts at 0. You can understand the game a little bit more than somebody else, but like, nobody has the supplies on day 1. Everybody is just going off of the same thing, right? So you're utilizing whatever you have the ability to do. So I do think that in a world where he's able to make kind of like where he's able to pass through the first couple of tribals, I do think he probably makes a deep run, only because I think that he is going to probably be very convincing. And I think that that's one of those things too, where like I look at, his tribe, the Rachels, Anika, is that, did I say
Annika? Yeah.
Annika, Rachel, even Sierra, like, I think he's going to be able to make a more convincing argument to them over one another as to why, if they lose a tribe, if they lose an immunity, he should stay over them. Same thing with like Sam and Andy. I think he's going to be able to have an easier time convincing and sticking with them than maybe any of the other girls might have the ability to do. It can't be as easy for me as like a 3-3 split on the first vote. None of them are going to rocks that soon.
Well, and that was my worry earlier. We'll talk about it when we hear all their videos and talk about all of them. But I think it's very clear those two guys, Sam and Andy, are the two brawn of the tribe. And then like it looks like, just based on the promos, just reading a little bit into the commercials a little bit, it looks like John and the women could team up. But like, are you going to go against the two strongest guys on your team? And that's the question: is like, are the guys gonna put their neck on the line to save John, or are they going to tell the girls, hey, let's just get out John now? Or the girls going to pull in John and go after the two strong guys and say, hey, this is a different game. Let's team up. Let's go loyalty over strength. Or, like I could see him being a Brandon Donlin, where he's just not a good enough challenge competitor where they have to cut him, because I don't think he's going to be great in challenges. But again, we've seen so many players like that. Cochran, David Wright, even Mike White. Mike White, the thing is, he has money, so much money that they were never going to let him win. So it was kind of easy to cruise along and take him to the end, because he never really had a shot at winning. John, I don't think he's like super rich or anything. So like, I think it helps him. And like you said, it's like that even playing field. But I really don't know. He's the biggest question mark. I could see him being the first boot. I could see him being the merge boot. I could see him going out right before the merge. I could see him being the second boot. I could see him being a finalist. I don't see him winning. I don't think he's going to win. But I don't know. Maybe he could. I don't know. Any other thoughts on John?
No, nothing that you haven't already said.
All right, let's go to Genevieve. Genevieve Mushaluk, our resident Canadian. Here we go.
I am a corporate lawyer, which means my phone is going off all the time. So life is busy and chaotic, but I love it. It's not that I have a passion for the law, I really don't, but I have a passion for problem solving and for people. I will absolutely not be telling people that I am a lawyer. Post 45, hell no. 3 out of the final 6 were lawyers. But the problem is, I'm a terrible liar. So I'd be really, really grateful if I'm here on like day 4. I gotta be really careful about who I show the inner workings of my mind to. I'm gonna win, with no one ever voting for me throughout the whole game. And anything less than that will be a complete failure.
Zach, here's the thing. I look at her talk, I listen to her speak, and she is so charismatic that I just want to talk to her. It's the same thing with TK, same thing with Tiana. I want to sit and talk with her for days and days and days. But then she actually talks about her strategy. She's a terrible liar. She wants to lie about her job, but she's a terrible liar. But is she self-aware enough to know that she's a terrible liar? Is that a good thing? Zach, you're looking at me like she's your first boot. I need to know.
Okay, well, I won't say what my opinion is. Right off the bat, what I wrote was bad liar, but there's a subversion in that. Loves to be busy, messy. It's Genevieve. Listening to Genevieve talk, though very pleasant, is sort of like whiplash. You're going in a different direction every like 5 seconds, and because of that, and because of who is on her tribe, I just don't. There's going to be too many people on that tribe who are going to be able to kind of like sniff out lying and sniff out like someone who's like just kind of like feeding them what they want to hear. And that just really doesn't feel like it bodes well for me. The reason I wrote there's a subversion is because like, would they really put that she'll be surprised if she lasts more than 4 days in the initial thing if, she actually goes home first or goes home second? Like, I don't know. I just have a really
It's
hard
like you
time.
have to read the production of it all. Yeah.
Right. I have a really hard time finding any way to like get behind Genevieve as a player because I just don't think I see like I do not see a world where she's so successfully like integrated with people. Plus, here's my other problem, right? She says she's a bad liar and that she's a lawyer and she's not going to tell them that she's a lawyer, but she's a bad liar. So what happens when they ask her what she does? Does she tell them a lie?
Well, I think
guess,
I heard her,
right?
I heard
Like,
her extended interview that she's going to talk about like something that she works like adjacently to with the lawyer thing about like something that got her into the law about some sort of adjacent business. I don't know her. The problem is I don't think you have to be a good liar to do well on Survivor. You can be truthful and
no.
not like. I mean, I think there are several people like Gabler never lied on Survivor.
Right.
You know, like that's the thing. You
Right.
don't need to be. That's why I could see her being the goat that's taken along. But also, it's like if she's going into the game, like you said, intending to lie but not a good liar, that's very much a red flag out the gate. But also,
Right.
like I listen to her talk though, and I don't want to send her home. I'm not threatened by her. So like maybe she's just gonna coast. I don't know. I'm confused. I don't know.
I'm very
And she looks like she'll be good in challenges. Like she looks like she's like strong
yeah.
and confident. I
Listen,
don't know.
I also think one of the things that will be very important, and we didn't even, I don't think we've ever really taken this into account before. We talk about it like so kind of haphazardly, is time. Like the time she gets with the people that she's with, right? Like if it's like, you know, if it's day one and they have a challenge and they lose, like, do I see Genevieve going home over somebody else on that tribe? Yeah, like I do. I see her being more of an issue for people.
To settle on a target, yeah.
Right. Like I can see her just being an easy, like, oh well, let's get rid of Genevieve. But again, I don't necessarily like if you give her a week, like that's different because she'll find her groove. That's what I at least imagine will happen. Yeah. But God Almighty, like I can't get a good read because I don't know what she wants to do.
And it's hard to talk about them without talking about the whole tribe in general. But in the red tribe, there was very clearly someone who was looking at another person to team up with, and someone who wanted to have a similar player on their side as someone else. I can see a very easy natural 4 forming on the red tribe, and she's not one of the 4. And I just think of the 2 that are on the outside, maybe they go for the other person first because they're more of a chaos. But like, I think if that person's gone, I think Genevieve can be an easy, like, I see Genevieve being the second boot if they go to tribal twice. Like, survives that first tribal, almost like Jess Chong on Yanu. Like, Jelinski's the first boot because Jelinski's causing the mayhem. But the second boot, it's just Jess's time. And I think that could be Genevieve, where it's like, we'll keep her for one round. We like her. And then second round, it's just like, but we have no other option. We got to cut you. I really do see that being the case because I think red is one of the more vulnerable tribes. I think the strongest one is probably blue, and then probably, you know what? Yellow is pretty weak too, but yellow has some strength that I think could support them up. I could see red and yellow going to quite a few of these early tribals, even blue going once. So I don't know about Genevieve, man. I'm a little worried. Yeah.
It's not good.
Now we got Gabe. Let's talk about Gabe.
It used to be a cliche, and now it's not anymore. I want to make this a cliche again. I'm not here to make friends. Growing up, I had 2 older brothers, so I constantly had to watch them do things that I couldn't do. I had to figure out ways around those rules and cut corners, lie, cheat, and steal to get ahead and get little advantages that stack up throughout life. I think being a talk show host is one of the perfect jobs to have coming into Survivor. I don't care about these people. They don't mean anything to me before this game. They don't mean anything to me after this game. I'm here to build a legacy in the game that I love and walk away with $1 million. That's it.
Okay. Zach, thoughts on Gabe?
I like the idea that he's not here to make friends. I don't know why he thinks that has disappeared recently. I don't think that that's true really at all.
Well, did you watch 46? I mean, everyone hates each other.
Right. That's my thing, right?
Charlie and Maria, Q, Venus, Maria.
I don't think anyone actually like
Heaven
is there to make friends anymore. So I don't necessarily agree with that statement. What I did like about what Gabe said is I liked the idea that he is trying to look around the conventional ways of like maneuvering around situations, which is good. I mean, like, you do need to be thinking at things from different lenses and different angles. You know, he's on the blue tribe. He's not going to tribal probably for at least 1 or 2 rounds. In a swap situation, however, I do feel like he's probably the person to me looking at it right now that runs the biggest risk of like detonating his own game because he's trying to not, he's trying not to get too close with people and he wants to make a move, but like he doesn't know where to look. I can see it now, like the detonating of his own game for the sake of like not trying to make a friend or make a connection. So, or blowing up somebody else's game and in turn blowing his own game up as well. So I like him. He is not my strong pick on that tribe. He to me kind of seems like the weak link in terms of like if there's a group of if there are groups forming, he doesn't seem necessarily like he's going to be the one in those groups or leading those groups. But I could see him, or in the opposite way, trying to lead the group, people getting annoyed with how he's trying to lead the group, and then kind of like pushing him out to the side. That's my read on Gabe.
I'll say right now, he's very lucky that I saw the Sue carrying the idol in the
because he reads as the first boot.
I was gonna say he's gonna be the first boot, but I think the upside to this is that he is telling us a lot of things that, like, is he gonna let that off on his tribe? We don't know. But I mean, and I say this about them as characters, right? As people that I'm watching in a TV show. I'm not saying this as him as a person, but I don't like Gabe. Like, just from watching the confessionals and stuff, I don't want to root for him. But it was similar because that's what Caleb was doing before his season 45. He was saying, like, I'm gonna be the villain. I'm gonna be the one like making the game schemy. And then he ended up being like the loyal puppy dog golden retriever. So I think there's a world where Gabe goes out there and plays a totally different game than he wants to say. But I also see the world where he goes out being like, I'm not here to make friends. But then, like, you realize early on, I don't have any friends. And then it ends up backfiring. I think he's going to be strong enough that they might keep him a challenge or two. But I agree with you. If there's a swap, or even if it's like late in the game, like almost like Daniel Strunk on Survivor 42, where after a few rounds, it's like, we got to get rid of Daniel. He's just causing chaos. I could see him causing chaos, but not in the good way. Like, Rome could be charming about it. I don't know if Gabe's going to charm people enough to where I just see it being where he makes a blunder and then the very next time he's out, or he makes a blunder and he's out that very day. I don't know. I don't have confidence with Gabe. I don't like him, but if he's a good villain, like, give me it, because I love good villains on the show. But I think there's other candidates for good villains, including even like a John Lovett that'd be like a fun villain, or even some of these women that I think could be like sneaky villains. I don't necessarily know if I want to watch Gabe play the villain, because I feel like it's like the antithesis of what Probe said. He's like, we're not casting villains, and what he meant is we're not casting bad people like Russell, who we're casting for entertainment. Like, Gabe's a good person, but like he's going on the show purposely to be the villain, and I just don't know if that ever works out. So
yeah, I mean, it's just not something that I'm interested in watching. Again, I'm in full agreement with you. If you hadn't said that, my first boot would have been a really like big tie, and I would have had to go on one side or the other. But he's one of them. Like, it just, I don't see a long life for him, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't even have him in my first few boot positions, just because I think there's one other person on blue that I could see getting targeted first, but he is someone who I have in that pre-merge, I'll say right now, just because I do think I just don't think he's going to be a major player at the end of this thing. I just don't see longevity, but I'd like to be proven wrong. I always am. So now we got Kyle Oswald. Let's talk about Kyle. No, this is not Ian Rosenberger from season 10. No matter what everyone says, this is a different guy. I promise. Here we go.
I swallowed a bug. So I like to do this thing called the bump and run derby. There's lefts and rights, there's humps and bumps. The main goal of the game is to cross the finish line, and if that means putting somebody into the wall along the way, so be it. It's been preparing me for Survivor. I grew up kind of rough, lived in a house that didn't have electricity. It was just a little bit of a fumble, but I met my fiance. He really inspired me to want to do more with myself. The home where I did a lot of my growing up, I've demolished that home and decided to build our own home there. Oh, my moose. That's my girl. Moose is my daughter. I've just wanted to create like a really solid foundation for her.
Even more reason to bring home that money, right?
Yo, you know it.
I love Kyle. He's just so, like, I want to give him a hug.
Yeah.
But like, I'm worried that they're just gonna be strategizing and he's just gonna be like happy to be there, planting trees and climbing trees, and like, I'm very worried that he's just not gonna. Go ahead, Zach. Sorry.
Here's what I'll say about that, though, is that he kind of, I mean, this is Nasir, right? This
yes,
idea
he's
of
the
like,
Nasir. He's the Nasir.
Like,
yes.
Kind of like, oh, like so relaxed and like shoot for the tribe, and they're like, he's not what we want. We got to get him out. Let's lose a challenge to try him. Whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so I could see a world where that happens, but he will probably be the one making sure that they're well taken care of.
I was just I don't think they're gonna try to throw a challenge again. I think he's gonna be
No.
someone who's an easy number to string along. My
Yeah.
worry though is that he's gonna be the fallen angel, almost like a Rupert, where like
Yes.
at the end you're like, oh, poor sweet thing. Like he just
Yes.
wasn't.
He also
Yeah.
reminds me of Jesse a little bit too, in the way that like
Yeah.
is like he kind of looks like a mess from the outside, but like there's such a good heart and like a great backstory.
Yeah, there's a rough exterior, but a soft interior. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I could see him. He's not going to be a first boot in situation, I don't think. I think what will happen is he will just become very content in where he's at. And I don't know what's going to happen if he has to try and like move away from that, if you know what I mean.
I mean, I could see him also being someone that you easily want to take to the end, like Ben.
Yes.
Or like he screams a 0 vote finalist in the way, but I also think they're gonna think he's too likable to be a 0 vote finalist. Like I think they're gonna want to take him out before
Yes.
then. But he could be someone like I could see him winning challenges. Like I could see him being like a hunter where he's just winning a lot of challenges, building so many shelters that everyone's like, yeah, we got to get rid of this guy. But I don't think he's gonna be cutthroat. But I think that's something refreshing. I think this whole blue tribe is very refreshing in that sense. Except for Gabe, but like I think, we already talked about her, Tiana. I think TK. I think we'll talk about some of them down the line, but I think they're just going to be very nurturing, warm presences on this tribe that the other people are going to stick out a little bit more, whereas he's going to fit in, I think, with someone like TK. Like I could see him and TK having almost like a Tevin and Hunter thing going on, but the problem is Hunter was definitely strategic and Tevin was definitely conniving, whereas I think TK is a lot more chill. I think Kyle's a lot more chill. I think that could be an even more successful replication of that alliance. So I like Kyle a lot. I originally
I do like him.
A late game and finale player, but he could be someone who's just taken out midway through the game just because it's his time to go, like almost like Ryan from season 43, I believe, or 42 or 43, I forget which season, but like just sweet guy, but like not necessarily cut out to win the ruthless game that is Survivor, but still I don't see how you send that face home early. All right. Keyshawn Patel, our ER doctor. Here we go.
Adjectives that I used to describe myself, or other people used to describe me, I'm just gonna say it, adorable. I don't know. Part of being an ER doctor is strategizing and prioritizing and triaging and just having that chaos at all times. Just like that emotional whiplash, and like the ER trains me for that. You have to know the strategy of what to do next. That's exactly what Survivor is. Some of my extended family still don't know that I'm gay. I wanted to prove that I can achieve anything I want to be, and that's irregardless of my sexual orientation. I'm here to play and share everything about me, and here I am now.
There you go. There's Keyshawn. Zach, what are your thoughts on Keyshawn?
Like Keyshawn a lot, great personality. He's one, Dylan, that I am in full agreement of. Like, I could listen to Keyshawn talk because I just think that he reads as just like your friend, and you could have a full night long conversation with him. What I will say, and this is again, a lot of these players, I have question marks because he's looking for control. My question is, how will you find it? Right. So like, if I'm looking at who's on that red tribe, he would need to be, for me, one of the bigger, like right off the bat, he would need to be one of the bigger competitive threats. And I do believe that he could be a competitive threat, right? He is able to really he's an ER director, I think it was. So he handles pressure well, which is important in these types of challenges. The question then becomes is, who are you pulling into your fold? How are you going to be how do you put yourself at the head of things in order to make sure that you are the one organizing it? But also, how do you hide your threat level with something like that? So Keyshawn shows a lot of promise, but it's going to depend on how other people in his tribe think of him to allow him to continue moving through the game. Because I could see him doing sort of a thing where, hit first two days on the island, he's great. And then the third day, people are like, why is Keyshawn making all the decisions? You know what I mean? So
he's almost overplaying it. Yeah. I think the problem with ER doctors, because we've had a few in the past, or at least doctors in general, doctors don't do well in Survivor. And I think the reason is, we saw Josh a few seasons ago butting heads with Jam Jam. We saw Peter back in Co-Wrong season 32. He went home mid pre-merge. I think the problem with doctors is that they're so used to being in high pressure scenarios, but also they've got to deliver that news that, they didn't make it, or that it's going to, you have this disease or that disease. You have to put up a wall. You can't let yourself get emotional, or you're never going to succeed, because you have to go through that daily, every single day. delivering hard news to people who really don't want to hear it, but have to hear it. That's going to be great if like you have to blindside someone, like on Big Brother, for example, where you're the HOH and you're like, I've got to put you on the block. That's where a doctor is going to be good. The problem is in Survivor, putting up that wall is not good. You need to build those social bonds. And I'm worried that Keyshawn, by nature of his job and just the fact that he is always in a high pressure scenario, he doesn't have the time to chill and relax and like be friendly and be social. And because he's also, and this is not a bad thing because a lot of people go through this, but like, hiding his sexuality from his family for so long, it's going to be very freeing and open to be on this beach. But there's also that idea of like, he's been so concealed in his whole life as a doctor, putting up this wall to his patients, as a man in a family that's very strict, having to put up this wall of his queerness and sexuality. I think that's going to come back to bite him on Survivor because I don't think he's going to allow himself to fully open up. And I do worry that on this tribe, there's a very clear 4 I could see forming, and I don't see him in that 4 either.
Yeah.
I see him and Genevieve kind of being on the outs, and I just think Genevieve,
I'm glad we're on the same page. I'm very glad
easier person to string along than Keyshawn. The thing with Keyshawn, they said in his Mike Bloom interview, he did say that he had his eyes on a few people that he didn't trust. The girl with the initials AW and the girl with the initials T something, basically Aisha and Teeny, who are both on his tribe. And the problem is we've seen a lot of other people on this preseason want to work with AW and T, including people on their tribes, which is Asia and Teeny. So the thing is, a lot of people on that tribe want to work with them. He doesn't. Who are you going to go with? The person who's targeting them already from just preseason? He apparently said that they didn't smile back at him at Ponderosa, but it's like, how do you know? How do you know? Like, I think once they hit the beach and they start talking, he's going to be like, well, they didn't smile at me at Ponderosa. And they're going to all be like, okay, so? Like, I feel like he's going to come out the gate. He's going to go out the gate putting names in people's mouths already, and I don't think he's going to need to, and that's what's going to get him in trouble. So I don't really love Keyshawn's prospects as a Survivor player. He seems like a nice guy. No. I would like to listen to him, but he does also seem a little wishy-washy to where it almost feels like not performative, but in the way where it's just like, he doesn't want to answer the difficult questions in a way. He's just kind of like, oh, I'm just like adorable and whatever, whereas like someone like John is going to be funny and be blunt and direct about it. I don't see that for Keyshawn. So he's someone I'm looking at as like a potential first boot just because I don't have the best vibes from him, but we'll see. I'd like to be wrong again. I'd like to be wrong with a lot of these things, especially the ones I have no faith in. But let's talk about Sam Phelan from the Yellow Tribe. Here we go.
Everybody wants to find an idol, but idols are like curses now, so individual immunity works just fine for me. That one I don't have to overthink. Sports and Survivor were like 2 of my things growing up, and I hit the age where you kind of realize, okay, not going to be a professional athlete. Sports reporting gave me an outlet. I think in sports reporting, you have to know how to stroke an ego. I've kind of fine-tuned those skills. I've always been a little bit more than just the sports guy. I did musical theater, I did drama. As soon as you've made a connection with me, like the vulnerability comes flowing out. So I'm not afraid to show a little waterworks sometimes.
There's Sam, another theater guy. Zach, is he your next? Is he your Jake O'Kane? Is he your next?
No, he's not.
Why is that, Zach?
I learned from my mistakes. No, I like Sam.
Jake got 3rd place. He did well.
Yeah, well, I like Sam a lot. I think Sam's a good. He's got good prospects as a player. One of the things that strikes me about him is the idea that like he kind of gets to the point where he realizes that something is not going to be happening. Therefore, he moves on to the next viable option, which is cool. In Survivor, you got to be prepared to move on with things pretty quickly. The problem for me, if I'm being honest, is that he talks about like needing to know how to stroke an ego. And I think that what's going to happen is his ego is going to get stroked, and therefore he is going to find himself in hot water.
We are on the same page, my friend.
Especially given the fact that on his tribe, I do think he is going to be one of the 2 major competitors. So I can see a world where people are going to stroke his ego and he's going to be able to stay around, and he's going to get maybe not cocky, but a little comfortable in the fact that he's moving through so easily. And I can see that just being something that like the minute he doesn't, and he doesn't want to find idols. Why don't you want to find an idol, you fool? Come on, man. Like, I understand.
mean, they did just watch. So when they went out, they had just finished I believe it was the Tiffany boot episode. So they haven't seen Venus and Q go home, but they've seen Tiffany, Hunter, and Jem all leave with idols. So I think it's like the hot topic now because a lot of them say that too, where they're like, play an idol if you get one, play an idol if you get one. The problem is Sam, I just feel like the way he talks, I hate to make this comparison, but it's Matt from Big Brother this most recent season where like he almost has this artificiality and this like kind of
Yeah.
performative nature, like almost kind of the smiles, like who wouldn't want an idol? Everyone's just gonna be smiling at you, and you put
Right.
on this dumb goofy grin, and they're like, get out of here. And I'm
Right.
worried that that's what's gonna happen to Sam. I also think because he is one of the two strongest guys on this tribe, that could be incentive for people to keep him. But looking at his tribe, I think you have a lot of rebellious types that would like to make like a flashy early move that might not benefit their tribe strength. But like I'm looking at someone like John Levitt, I'm looking at like
Yeah.
Annika, and I could see a world where they're like, let's flip the script. Like, let's get this guy out. Even Rachel, like if those three team up and they're able to convince the fourth girl in that tribe, not saying John, no, like the third girl in that tribe that would align with John, like if they can pull it together, even Andy, who's also on the tribe, he's a super fan, he's a RHAP patron. Like I could see them
Yeah.
kind of throwing it on Sam. I think Sam has potential to be like Garrett from Kage-yan or even Voce from season 41, where it's like you think you're in such a smart, great position because you're strong and like likable, but really you're rubbing people the wrong way and they're seeing through it. I just think the fact that he has such this hot take about idols, like I think he's really proud of that, and he's gonna say that a few times. He's like, "Why are we looking for idols? Idols get you sent home nowadays, right?" Everyone's gonna be like, "All right, go home."
Dylan, he gives musical theater tenor. That's what he gives,
Oh,
right?
shut up.
Not
Shut
you.
up.
No, not you. Not you. Of course, never you. But you know what I mean? Like that stereotypical, like, yeah, I sing Santa Fe in the car and I sound really
Yeah, I got
like,
a high B flat, you know.
yeah, I got a high, I got that high B flat pretty much every day. I could go up to the D natural if you really wanted me to.
Yeah, no, you want some Frankie Valli? I'll go fall.
Yeah, that's it. He gives that a little bit too much.
Yeah,
So,
you're
like,
right.
Not a winner pick. Not a
Not
winner
only
pick.
pick. I think he's either going to be a shocking early blindside, or he could be like your villain that gets taken out mid-merge, or he could be like a 0-vote finalist where he gets his final tribal and he's like, maybe I didn't play as optimally as I thought. Or I would love to see him find an idol and then go back on his word and not play it and then go home with an idol in his pocket. I would love to see that happen for Sam, just because I love the irony of it. But again, hope I'm wrong. Freaking tenor comment triggered.
Yeah, well.
All right, Andy, here we go.
I have the ability to charm and disarm. This is a social game, like, that's really good. I work in computer learning and natural language. It's the science of language. Survivor, it's a game of conversations. I was really, really close with my cousin Ashley. She named me the godfather to her firstborn. We lost Ashley to domestic violence. They don't have parental figures. I can be someone that they can look up to. People are looking at me and thinking that I am another Austin, dependable, but ultimately beatable. If people see that in me, I can capitalize on that and just play like a snake.
I like Andy a lot. He's very charming, very disarming. He says charm and disarm. My only worry is they just watched Austin do it. Are they going to want to take that risk again? Because the thing with Austin is just he was going up against D, who just outsmarted him at every turn. But Austin was still a vote away from tying D. So, like, if one juror flips, it's a 4-4 vote. He lost 5-3. So, like, yes, he's like, I'm easy beatable at the end. No, Owen and Jake were easily beatable at the end. Austin was not. Austin almost won that season.
Right.
But I really like Andy. I think he's going to be well-rounded. I don't see him not making the merge unless like the girls and John Lovett team together and get out Sam and then they lose again and take out him. But like, I really don't see a world where he goes home early unless it's the girls thing.
No, and he wants to be underestimated, right? He wants to be underestimated in the way he kind of. I think what he thinks about Austin is that people think that Austin is an idiotic player because we as fans thought Austin was not the right time, like not the right type of player. Should have taken D out. Should have taken D out. In reality, I mean, if he takes D out, he's just next, period. Like that's kind of the hierarchy of that season at that point. But what I will say is I think he thinks Austin is dumber than he is because he looks like, oh, I got the long hair, the like, what's up, dude vibes. Very similar to like, like, Dylan, I don't know if you would know this, but my favorite Big Brother player is Tyler Crispin, right? Like that, but it's a viable strategy to want to be underestimated, but you really have to play yourself up. So, and that's not like a surefire plan. That is an easily backfired plan. If people don't believe you or they just don't like you, they'll still get rid of you. So like, I am interested to see how well he plays up this idea of like, yes, think I'm this person, so you underestimate me. Yes, think this is who I am, so you underestimate me. If that's what happens, then I can see. I don't see him not making merge. But if he rubs someone the wrong way, like it's just an easy 4-2 vote to make him be the one who's going home.
Yeah. I think for his tribe, he has the hardest path because I think all the women are a little younger. Like, I honestly think if he were on the blue tribe with like Sue, like I could see that kind of dynamic working really well. Oops, sorry, I hit the mic. With it's like the older woman, younger guy. Like he feels like he needs to team up with like one of the older people on the season or like another young guy. Because I think the problem is if you team up with another girl, they're gonna immediately think Austin and Dee, even if it's not necessarily romantic in a way. And I think that always poses a challenge. And all the women on his tribe are fairly young. I could see him teaming up with John Lovett. I think that'd be a fun kind of, pivot. But yeah, I just don't know who his closest allies would be on that tribe just looking at it. But I also don't know why they would target him first. So like I think he's in a good middle ground. I'd actually like to see him be on the outside of a vote in the very first few votes. So he isn't as threatening. So he can kind of slide under the radar and team up with someone as a pickup number rather than dictating the first vote. I think that's going to help him. But I don't want him to be on the receiving end of it because I do really like him. And he is a patron of Rob Has a Podcast. So he's very clearly involved in the community. I think he's also played orgs and RPGs. So that's really cool. So I'm really excited for him. Right? Did I say it right? RPGs?
ORGs.
No, but what about the other one? The
LRGs.
LRGs. I said RPGs. LRGs. He's played LRGs as well. So so he's clearly got a lot of good experience, at least in the online ways. And I know, Zach and I are big orgers. At least Zach is. I've dabbled a few times and done poorly many times. So, but he's, kind of cut from the same cloth as us. So I'd really like to root for him. Hope he does well. All right, Sue Smee. Here we go. Sue, oldest winter survivor ever, according to her. Let's find out.
I want to be remembered as the oldest woman to ever win Survivor. When I first got into the aviation industry, I'd have such a pushback from the men. They almost laughed at me. So I'm going to keep pushing forward. Now I have a really successful flight school and everyone in the area knows who we are. My goal is to try to open this up to women. They need to be empowered. I was totally underestimated. Coming here, I feel it's going to be very similar. These people look at the old person, they think they're the weak person here. They're going to soon realize that they're going to want me here. My grandson will always remember his grandma kicking butt on Survivor.
She's so cool.
I like her a lot.
She's love her.
Not as quirky and zany as I imagined, just based on the press. Like, I was hearing everyone be like, yeah, Queen Sue, we stand to. I think just the Angela of it all and Big Brother is making me think like all these older women are going to be these more neurotic presences, like Carolyn as well, even though Carolyn wasn't older, but she was older than some of her other castmates. So I was expecting the more zany, kooky, crazy lady. And honestly, I think if she were the zany, kooky, crazy lady, I think she'd go further just because I think that's the type of player that people want on their side. I think she's almost a little too nice and calming and nurturing that I'm worried that might be a threat.
Right.
Like a Tiffany, for example, from 41. But what are your thoughts on Sue?
So I like the idea that she wants to exploit this idea that she's going to be underestimated. The question becomes like how, again, if I'm looking at these, how did I get rid of the tribes? Are you kidding, Zach? If I'm looking at these tribes, right? If her and Tiana are the two, like, actually, if Tiana, Sue, and Caroline, because all three of those women are athletes or athletic or strong in their own right, like they do run that tribe. They run that tribe hardcore. Here's the problem, right? Is that if Blue wins up until they swap, and Sue swaps onto a tribe with someone like, I don't know, like Sam, Jerome, Rome, and I don't know. I'm just going off of like vibes. Keyshawn, right? Like, let's say that's what happens. She is the more threatening individual at the end of the day, even though she is going to probably be one of the stronger people on their tribe. You can't let her get to the end. Look at her story. She knows what she's going to, she gives me, I already know what I'm going to say, and I haven't even gotten to FTC yet. And that's part of the game, right? You got to imagine yourself there in order to be able to get there. But I agree with you. I think she'll be a little too threatening. I think she will probably be on the Blue tribe. She will be part of a major alliance. I think she'll run that tribe if they go anywhere. Yeah. But what I will say is the problem will not be, going out on the Blue tribe. The problem I think will be going out when you're not there anymore. And I
Yeah.
don't think you prepped for that yet.
Yeah, I really don't know where to put her. Like, she's someone I kind of put, when you see my rankings, smack dab in the middle, because I don't know. She could be in your final tribal, and even if she's there, I worry she might
Are
not
we
get the
doing
respect.
safety or are we doing overall?
No, we're doing overall placement, but because
Okay.
I just don't know if she's going to be the first one out or the last one standing. Like, she could be both. I could see a world, if I didn't see that stupid preview with her holding the idol, I could see a world where she's the first boot. I think she could still
Yeah.
be the first boot from her tribe, just because they do value strength and they see her as older and weaker, which is not fair to assume. But I also think her tribe is pretty strong. I mean, TK and Tiana are very physically strong. You're not going to get rid of them. We haven't talked yet about Caroline, but as you said, she's an athlete, and you see Gabe, he's pretty strong. Kyle's very strong. So, like, she may be strong, but she may still be the weakest. So it's like, I could see a worry for her, but I do think you're right. Like, I think she's going to be so good socially. I just don't know where to put her. I don't know if she's going to be someone worth keeping an eye on to the end of the season, because she's not that manic, neurotic presence where you're like, we'll just keep her under our wing and take her far, like Liz or like Carolyn. Like, I really think people are going to be threatened by her. So I don't know if she's going to make it to the end, like so many people hope and expect her to. But again, like I have been saying as a broken record, I hope to be wrong. Here we go. Caroline, speaking of, let's finish out this blue tribe by talking about Caroline.
Water polo is like a game of viciousness, taking you underwater and like trying to drag on your bathing suit. People don't think I can fight, I can fight. The way I approached business school was I basically craft my own Survivor major, classes like selling yourself and your ideas, power and organization. I don't think I come across as smart as I appear. I'm strategic, I'm cunning, I'm ruthless, I'm perfectly poised to be the wolf in sheep's clothing. And that's why I'll be the sole survivor.
Zach, tell me about Caroline.
I love Caroline.
Okay.
I think she's great. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I just think she's got, for me, I hope I won't regret this. She has everything that Ellie should have been able to do as a player. And all I want is for her to pull it off correctly, because Ellie can win that season if she
Who's her Gabler? Is it Sue?
No, I don't even see. My thing is, I don't even think she's got a Gabler. I think the thing is, Tiana, Sue, and Caroline for me spells an incredible alliance. TK is a fourth, but like Caroline and TK, I can see kind of being a pairing together. I think that's going to be very, very cool. I love her idea of like, it's not about what's in front, it's about like, to play polo you got to play underneath. It's not what's in front of you, it's what's underneath the water that matters. And I think that's so cool. That's such a cool way of thinking about it. I think she could potentially, she's going to be one of the most athletic people on her tribe. She's used to being in the water as a sport, like in terms of sports, so anything in the water she's going to be good at. I can see her being an easy individual immunity winner through most of the season if she's in the merge. She's just clearly got the stamina. Her being in the dress immediately threw me off. I was like, what are you doing here in that dress? But obviously it's preseason, it's publicity and things like that. I love Caroline. I think she's great.
Cool. Yeah, it's interesting because for Caroline, when I first saw her talk, I was like, oh god, she's gonna be super nerdy, super smart. And then she brings out the water polo, and it's like, cool, she's got that athleticism. The only thing is, like, the rest of her tribe, as we've seen, has that athleticism. I mean, like, Sue's this badass pilot, and you have like Gabe, who looks pretty athletic, I guess. Obviously, Tiana and TK are also very, very athletic. And then I forget the other Kyle, who is obviously very strong. So like, I think her tribe is strong. I think her tribe's gonna win a lot. The only thing is, the major thing I took issue with is that she said, people are going to look at me and not realize how smart I am. Whereas first thing when I heard her mouth open was, this girl's like really smart. She's giving Franny vibes. And I just think that's my biggest issue, is she thinks she's going to appear less smart than she is. And I'm worried people are going to look at her as a smart girl. And on a tribe with other athletic people, if they do lose, I don't necessarily know if her athleticism is going to save her, because everyone's athletic on the tribe. I think it's going to come down to like her and Sue, and it's just going to be a matter of, well, we like Sue, she's chill, we can control Sue. Caroline, she's smart. I'm worried about Caroline, and I'm worried she has that like Emily Flippin early side where it's like, we just don't know how to predict her. But the thing is, Emily turned it around, and I think Caroline can turn it around if her tribe wins, as we think they're going to win a lot, and she ends up going deep. I think there's a case where if she goes deep, Caroline can win. It's just my thing. Same that I said with Teeny, same that I said with Annika, same that I said with John Lovett. If you can survive a few of those early tribals, then you can make a run. But it's going to be those first early tribals for me, where I didn't get a lot of confidence with Caroline, just because I think she is going to come across as super smart. There's a contestant from Survivor Caramel in 26, Laura, who she really reminds me of, where Laura just was like so smart. She survived the first few tribals because they were getting out like the kind of popular blonde girl, like super like flirty girls. And then they were like, we just have to get rid of Laura just because we really have no other options. She's the weakest one, and she's super smart. She's going to beat us in the end. And I'm just worried that they're going to play the smart card too early with her. But I do like what you said. Like, you've given me a lot more perspective on the fact that she could be a longevity player here. But I think you definitely have more confidence than I do in Caroline. But I think that's what's fun about this show, is because one of us is going to be right, one of us is going to be wrong, and that's the fun of it. But let's just remember, I had Kenzie at 1 last year. You had her at 15. So anything can happen. And if this is the case scenario where you have her at 1 and I have her a little lower, then I'm willing to take that fall, because I'd love to see Caroline again. I think she's great. She's also the one who was least present in the marketing. But again, you can't really read into that. She was in the marketing, so it's not like, she's totally hidden. But all right, moving on. Asia Welch, who, if you watch Rob Has a Podcast, you know Asia, especially Big Brother fans who watch Rob Has a Podcast. She is like a Big Brother podcaster on Rob Has a Podcast. Zach, do you listen to RHAP at all or no?
Not enough.
Okay.
Not enough. I didn't.
Did you
know
recognize Asia? No? Okay. It's very interesting because she just joined the team a few years ago, but she is someone who, when I saw her in the preview, I was freaking out.
It's very cool.
This is like my equivalent to your Teeny, where you feel like you know Teeny even though you don't. Like, I've watched Asia's podcast about Big Brother, and I'm like, I feel like I know Asia Welch. It's kind of crazy. So let's hear the rest of Asia for the rest of the world.
Insight, then.
Yeah, let's hear it.
If we sit next to each other on a plane, I will talk to your ear off. I literally have at least 6 or 7 contacts in my phone of so-and-so's name, airplane. All I know is that I have the ability to create strong relationships, and that's what's gonna carry me through the game. I always thought I'm gonna be married by 23, have kids by 25, and I am 32 and single. What that has prepared me for is to be adaptable. If I see somebody that seems unapproachable and impossible to work with, I'm gonna wanna make it happen, because I'm gonna feel that personal satisfaction that I was able to win them over. Marianne, Shan, Katora, wait, if they could do it, I could do it. And so if I could do that for some other girl out there, I think that's inspiring.
Yeah, I love Asia. It's hard. It's Asia, not Asia. I know some people are out there saying Asia. It's Asia, like the country. That's how she opens every podcast. But I do think it's interesting because a lot of people from the preseason, just like who they've like been getting a good vibe off of, a lot of them recognize her.
Mhm.
And like Teeny especially is recognizing her, but wants to work with her because she's like, listen, if I tell everyone this girl podcasts about Survivor, first off, she podcasts about Big Brother. She does some podcasts about Survivor, but it's mostly about Big Brother. But it's like, if you tell people she podcasts for Survivor, then you are clearly a Survivor podcast listener, which means you clearly know a lot about Survivor. And it's like, like if someone's like, oh God, I know Zach Love, he does a podcast on Survivor. It's like, well, you listen to that podcast, so you are guilty as charged. So I think it's going to help her that she's a Survivor podcaster, because those super fans are going to gravitate toward her. It's like they already have a friend out there, so they feel like they already know her, which is huge. The fact that you could like know someone well enough before you even meet them just because you know their work, it's why I think I'd hope both of us would do well on Survivor, because people would watch us and be like, oh my God, I've seen their podcast. Like, I know what they're like. I know how they vibe, because we're very real. The issue with that, though, is that she's so social and so likable that, like, if you let her get to the end, she's winning. So, like, there's no way they let her get to the end. And if they do, full shame on them, because I really do think she's just someone kind of like I was talking with TK, where it's like, you don't even have to be the best strategist. You're Asia Welch. You're going to be able to convince people that you're deserving of that money. She mentions wanting to have a brother-like figure because she loves her brother and she has such a close relationship with her brother. And immediately I went to Rome. I think Rome is going to be that brother-like figure for her. And I also think Teeny wants to work with her. And there's another person on the tribe who wants to work with Teeny. So I think that's the natural 4 that's going to form. I think it's going to be Asia, Rome, Teeny, and one other person we've yet to mention. And I think they're going to run a lot of the game. But because Jeff keeps teasing these power shifts, I'm worried Asia is going to be kind of the casualty of like an idol switch or something like that. But I really do like Asia, and I hope she does well. This is like watching a friend of mine play, even though I've never met her. But like I've watched her for years, so I know who she is. It's so surreal, so I'm really happy for Asia that she's on the show and that she's getting to rep RHAP, considering Rob started on Survivor and now she's coming full circle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about Asia. Mainly just something that I read about her was that off the bat. But I also don't know what her I know that she podcasts with Rob. Rob has a podcast. I know that she clearly knows a lot about the game. My one thing from that was like adaptability from the thought that you'd be married and now instead you're single. That didn't read well to me. Not in a way of like, you know, oh, like that's kind of BS, but in a way of like, how does that equal adaptability? And again, I feel like part of the strategy is to just not give away too much about what you want to do, which is very good. And like, I am interested to see what that really means for her. Definitely likable. But again, I think likability can take you far. It's just in the moments where you become too obviously likable that things get a little dicey. So that's all I got.
Yeah, I think she's going to be someone who, as we see more of her, we'll start to see more of her strategic thinking. She's very clearly going into this as a social player. It's really interesting to see these guys, who's going in as like the social person is who's going in as a strategic person. Because you have someone like Gabe, who's clearly going in as a strategic person. You have someone like Sam going in as a strategic person. But I think it's going to be the people who go in as the social people who are going to make it totally deep in the game, but are going to be tough to beat at the end. And you're going to have to cut them before they can get too far. All right, here's the last from our yellow tribe. This is Sierra. Let's talk about Sierra.
A lot of times when I'm around, people are laughing. I like to call myself a hoot. I am actually a surgical nurse, so really I end up being a lot of time the therapist. People look at me and just see a little tiara on my head. There's so much more to Sierra than just pageant Sierra. Playing softball my entire life, being in the service industry for over 12 years, to now being a registered nurse, and I was born for the game of Survivor. I'm out here to play for my dad. He has gone through hell and back the last 2 years with a chemo infusion. His last few words to me were just like, go get him, bud, bring it home and, come home a millionaire. And that's what I'm gonna do.
I love her story. I think she's very, very charming. She's like Zoe Brooks from Zoe 101 without the baggage of being Jamie Lee.
Zoe 101.
Jamie Lynn Spears in real life. She's like Zoe embodied in a Survivor player. What are your thoughts on Sierra, Zach?
Yeah, she clearly can connect with individuals, which is cool. Like she's got this therapist vibe. This idea like she's always a hoot. That just doesn't tell me much about her strategically. Again, you just said it, Dylan. Like we've got our social, and we've got our strategic. She reads social, but not nearly as social as other people on this season do. Especially like looking at her tribe, looking at the fact that like Rachel and I'm gonna say Anika wrong.
Annika.
I knew I was gonna say it wrong. Annika, because she's got Rachel and Annika. Like, yeah, she'll be social, but
think about it like this: in Friends, there's Rachel and Monica.
Annika, very good. I needed help. I learned a lot of students' names over the last 2 weeks, so I'm still.
I got you. This is like watching like a first day of school, learning everyone's names. It does feel like that, yeah.
And I mean, like again, I just don't have a good read. I don't really have a good read. I don't think she screams winner to me. I don't think she screams middle of the road. I don't think she screams first boot. She's just somewhere. And I don't know where that's going to take her, but I have a place for her. It's just a matter of time.
I was hoping you would say something that could spark something in me because I wrote very little for her. I like her a lot. I don't have any red flags as to like I don't think she would ever be the first one out. But like I have no reason to think she's the winner of the season either. Like I'm so in the middle with her. I feel like she's not letting on a lot.
I have a reason to think other people are the winner. Like I have a reason to think.
Like I'm impassioned to put my final three where I'm putting them. Whereas her,
I would agree.
I don't feel that way. Like, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Like I think that we've seen a lot of players just kind of coast and be kind of these lesser presences, which is fair. Like if she's playing, to get like one of those finalist chairs and not win, hey, she could still win. Like. I'll say it again. I'd like to be wrong, but I'm not getting a lot from her. I think she's likable, but especially on that tribe, she's got so many characters. I mean, Sam and Andy and John Lovett. I mean, Annika. They're all even Rachel.
There's a lot there, and there's no reason
quieter.
for me to think. There's no reason for me to think that she would be the person to win out over any of them. So I just, again, I'm with you. I'd like to be proven wrong. I just need to be.
Kind of like Sue, like I don't know where to put her, so I'm putting her right in the middle. That's a spoiler. But the last person we'll be talking about today is Solomon, aka Saul Yee. Let's talk about Saul.
God, why am I crying so much right now? I don't do this. I don't like talking this. I help people with neurodegenerative disorders like Parkinson's disease. I've won over 200,000 playing poker. When I make a move, I'm not lying to you. I'm bluffing you. I can take that emotion out because in the end, this is the game. Obviously, there aren't many Koreans in Oklahoma, so I stood out. It was rough. I got picked on a lot. It turned me to the man I am today. In order to be the best you can be, you're gonna suffer. I think if I embraced how difficult it's going to be here, it's going to make it that much easier.
So let me tell you about Saul, because I had an interesting journey with Saul. I listened to his interview with Mike Bloom first, and I listened to it, and I was like so bored. I was like, this guy could blow me to sleep. But then I watch him, and there's something about him, like just opening up when you actually are looking face to face with him, and he just has this like real comforting nature to him. Like in that clip when he's like smiling, with the little
Mhm.
red buff on. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I just feel like I would love to just talk with him and just like go to the end with him as my ally, because I also think if you're sitting in the end with him, I think he's going to be someone who's a little easier to beat in the final tribal. He reminds me of Ken from Millennials versus Gen X, where it's like this guy who's going to clearly be an asset for you because he's going to be good in challenges. He's going to be a good number, but in the end, you could probably out talk him because he is a little bit slow, a little bit more laid back, a little bit more lax, and he might have a story and a resume, but he might not be able to sell himself as well, which is why I think he's a perfect ally to team up with, especially if you're someone like Teeny. And in preseason, he did say he's looking at Teeny. He wants to work with Teeny, and just from Ponderosa vibes. And I think if Teeny and him can team up and go with someone like Rome and Asia, who are the more vocal people, and Teeny and Saul can be kind of the quieter people to work with them, I think that bodes really well for Saul's chances. I'd love to see Saul make a deep run in this game. I don't know if I'm getting a winner vibe from him just because he is so soft spoken, but also we saw Yule win Cook Islands, and he had a very similar demeanor to him too.
Right.
I think there's something about him that is just so alluring and so charismatic, despite being very low energy, which I think is so odd but also comforting. What are your thoughts on Saul though, Zach?
I think that he has a great constitution, is what I wrote. A constitution that, like, I know, like, his first thing is that he's coming in with, like, I don't normally cry like this. But the fact that he can kind of hold himself together under these situations that are, like, not for people, not for the faint of heart, talking about Parkinson's, other neuro diseases that, like, really are, I mean, speaking as someone who has a lot of experience with someone who, like, is neurodivergent, and not because they are neurodivergent, but the things that come with, like, epilepsy comes with autism, and it's a very common thing for those with, lower functioning autism. Like, being around that is not an easy thing to deal with. So to do it as your job and to do it in such a way where, like, you can kind of shut yourself off to those things. I mean, it's great as a Survivor player because you are going to have to make tough decisions, and you're going to have to do things that you may not always agree with in terms of, like, like slighting someone for an opportunity at, like, whatever it might be. But I do think that also holds merit, Dylan, to what you were saying in terms of, like, he probably is an easier beat at the end, not because he's boring or anything, but because he probably won't feel too bad about making decisions that are harder for some people and hurting some people's feelings in the process. And that is jury management is a real thing. So I can see him being a great individual in terms of, like, as a player, he's amazing. As a jury threat, he will not be, because he's just going to bother so many people if he's not upset voting them out, and people's feelings get hurt.
Yeah. So I really like Saul. I think he's got good upside. I don't see him being one of the first few boots on the tribe. I do want to, before we get into our predictions, I want to pull up the Survivor 47 tribes, just so I can, like, get a picture of them, just so we can kind of assess it tribe by tribe. Do you have the names of the tribes on you by any chance?
No.
All right.
I do.
Let me see if I can get the tribes up.
I got it. Hold on.
Okay, give me one of the names just so we can,
Gata is yellow.
Okay, so let's pull up Gata. Right.
Also, they classify it as orange, not red.
Oh, interesting. I'm trying to find the picture of the Gata tribe. You know what? Let me just get up tribes. Sorry, guys.
Oh, do you want this?
You know what? I have like a divisional thing here. Let me pull this up. This will be the best way to do it. Is just to have that up. Let me bring that up. That'll be the easiest way to look at it, right? That's a pretty easy way.
Yeah, that's fine.
Even though they're not standing together. Okay, so let's start with the left. Let's start with the blue tribe here. That bottom one is Tiana. How do you see this tribe dynamic shaking out, Zach? Who do you see working with who? Nice haircut, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Blue is Tuku, for reference of name.
Okay.
I see if I'm looking at it, I see right away probably Caroline, Tiana, and Sue kind of joining up, as they seem like they want to work together and like in terms of strong women, and they're going to be. I think actually they're going to be the competitive leaders for their tribe, which is going to be very cool to see. I can see TK connecting with. I can see TK connecting with everybody. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think it's going to be hard for him to do that. But I see probably something deep with Tiana and or Caroline. Maybe Kyle, but I'm not 100% sold. I think Gabe will probably have a harder time connecting with everyone. And I think Kyle is sort of in the similar realm of TK. He's going to be able to connect with everybody.
Yeah.
But I think in a manner that's just kind of like he vibes with everyone. He's not close with them.
Yeah. I think TK and Tiana are going to be that core of that tribe. I can see them getting along with everyone. I think it's going to be a question of like Sue and Caroline, I think, are going to be on one end of like they're a little weaker in the midst, but like I do think they are good social threats. And then you have Gabe and Kyle who are going to be the strong guys, but are a little less reliable. Like Gabe is a little bit more of a wild card. So I think that's going to be where the split happens. And then in yellow, I see a similar thing happening where I think the girls are going to team up for sure. I could see of all the girls wavering, I think Sierra has the most potential to waver and work with Sam and Andy, but I do see the girls working together, pulling in John to go after Andy and Sam. But I also see a world where like Andy, Annika, Sam and Sierra get together, and like Rachel and John are kind of on the outs because Rachel's a little quieter. John's a little kind of more of an outcast because he's a little quirkier. So I think there's different ways this can break down, but I think this is another one where the girls could work together to pull over one of the guys, either John or Andy.
I don't disagree with any of that. It's really, for me, it's going to be a matter of who are they going to push forward first as like a sacrificial lamb. I would love a blindside night one of Sam. That would be cool. And then moving to orange, which is, by the way, yellow is Gata and Lavo is orange.
Lavo is in lava is in orange. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I don't. I think it's pretty obvious.
We've been talking about it. Yeah.
I think Teeny, Saul, Rome, and Asia are just, that's a 4. Easy.
I think Asia and Rome have potential being the next like Visepia and Sean from Marquesas. I think Saul and Teeny are going to be quiet, and that's going to really help them balance each other out. I think Rome and Asia are going to be bigger personalities. Teeny and Saul are going to be smaller personalities. You put them together, it's a great balance. I think Keyshawn and Genevieve are going to be kind of on the outs, but I do think of the two, I think Keyshawn is going to stick out a little bit more.
Well, Dylan, let's get into it. Because we're moving.
I should keep them up. I should keep them up.
We're moving into our rankings.
Yeah, let me get my phone out so I can write down yours as we go.
I have it if you want it. I'll send it to you.
Okay. But I still want to type it out for myself to see. But who is going to be your first boot? Who do you think loses first? We know Blue is not losing. I mean, they might lose the first one, but we know they eventually win a challenge because Sue's carrying a idol. Let's assume that they win the first challenge. Otherwise, why would they show it in the trailer?
I think we're looking at Red going to tribal.
I agree. I think Andy and Sam are going to be strong enough that I think we're going to see Red/Orange go. Who do you think goes first?
I really don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it. I think Genevieve is going to go home. Okay. I think she's first boot.
I have Keyshawn as the first boot because of that. Like, I think it's a similar thing. I just think he's going to have trouble fitting in. He already is coming into the game, based on his interviews, targeting AW and TC, who are Asia Welch and Tina.
And that's just not going to end well.
No, because I think Asia and Teeny want to work together because Teeny wants to work with Asia. Teeny's the one who's a fan of RHAP. Saul wants to work with Teeny. Asia wants a little brother figure. I mean, that works out perfectly, right? Asia scoops up Rome, Teeny scoops up Asia, Saul scoops up Teeny. It just makes sense. And I think Genevieve is someone easier to maneuver with if you are going to keep winning. Who loses the second challenge?
I think we're going to see kind of a back and forth between yellow and red or yellow and orange. I do have Annika going out at 17.
All right.
And again, I think your Sam theory could absolutely be good.
That's why I have at 17. So I have Sam being the boot at 17, just because I think
we're just really relying on it too much. And I'm going to go with Annika. I think she will be the safe boot. I think John's a good enough like social personality that he should be able to save himself.
I think the girls are going to pull over John, and that's going to be the big shock. I think originally Sam and Andy are going to be like, it's got to be John, right? And John's going to just have that instinct to be like, let's make a move. Let's go after Sam. And I think that could be like a fun early blindside. But then I'm worried about how that'll work for John going forward. So we'll talk about it in a sec. Who's your number 16? Where do you see the next round going?
So we're going back to orange. And that is when I think Keyshawn goes. And I think that will probably be the last time we see Orange go to tribal pre-swap or pre-merge.
Okay. Let me put that down. Keyshawn. I'm trying to figure out where the merge-ish would be just based on last season. I'm looking now. It looks like they merged. The Mariah boot was the 6th tribal,
Yeah.
which was the earn the merge. So let's say the pre-merge is the first 5, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay, my 16, this is going to upset you, I know, but I do think Blue will lose at least one, and I just worry that, like, they're going to go with strength, and for some reason, I think they just see Carolina as someone who's super smart, so I'm putting Carolina at 16. I am. This is my Kenzie. This is where you put Kenzie last year.
That's
I have a feeling you have Carolina.
crazy.
I just didn't get the best vibes from her because of the tribe she's on. I think if she was on another tribe, she'd do better. I think I have her in a similar position that you have Annika, where I just don't know if this is the tribe that's perfect for Caroline, just based on the other personalities, especially with like Gabe on that tribe. I think Gabe's going to stir up trouble, and they're going to want to get out Gabe, but they're going to prioritize strength, and they want to keep Sue. That's my guess. But you've kind of convinced me to want to put Caroline higher. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put Genevieve at 16. I'll put Caroline at 15, just to make it a little bit better.
That's not much better, but it's okay. At 15, I'm going to put Gabe because I want Gabe to leave. I just think that sort of like what you meant, like, or what you said, Gabe's going to stir up trouble, but I don't think they're going to stand for it. I think they're going to get rid of him. That seems, after 3 rounds of not losing, I think they'll probably be very, very quick to be like, all right, let's get rid of, like, this is who we need to get rid of. Because he's the only one who reads as like a problem personality-wise to me.
Yes. So I did put Genevieve at 16, so that means Caroline's 15. But I think if they were to lose again, or even if there's a swap, I think Gabe is your last boot before the big, like, earn the merge. I think Gabe ends up being like this big flame out pre-merger. So I have Gabe at 14. Who is your last person going home before the earn the merge? Kind of, if it's the same as last year.
I got to tell you, I think it's Sue. I think Sue goes out in that kind of like earn the merge. You can't let her get to merge because that's when she becomes a problem for people. Like, she could probably win, especially if you are at the point where you don't have to, you're going to have to stop relying on other people in order to win a challenge. And now you are going to have to be doing it yourself. She has proven just by her interviews that she is that person who will always pull out ahead of everybody else.
Yeah. So next for the earn the merge, let's say this is like the Mariah boot. This is who I think is going to get it, just because I know they're probably not going to be on the winning tribe, because I don't think they're going to be good in challenges. And I think they're going to be going long enough into the game where they're not going to be, having a sour experience, but they seem to be positive about their time. So I'm going to put John there. I'm going to put John Lovett at 13. I just think I don't see him making it deep into the game. I just don't. I got the instinct off the bat. I almost put him as my first boot, but I was like, you know what? John has been so positive about this experience. What are the odds he's the first boot? So I'm like, you know what? I'll give him a few rounds. I think he's going to, according to this, I only have Yellow losing once. So that's good. But I think John is going to make it deep enough to get 13th, but then I don't think he quite makes the jury portion. Who do you have at 13?
So in an homage to your Sam decision, I do have Sam at 13. I think he's a blindside. He thinks he's going to go so much farther and so deep. But Yellow, kind of, they all combine together. They blindside him at this like potential merge, potential last second for the merge. And it just like fully explodes in his face. I think that's going to be, and I think it'll be cool to watch at the end of the day. I think it'll be very interesting to see. And I think they're going to have to get out a challenge for that pretty early. And I think the others are going to do a really good job at like rooting themselves in a little bit better.
Yeah. So at this point last season was where we did the whole like split tribal, one person's on the jury, one person's not. And this was where a season before as well with Caleb and Seafood. This was also with Tim and Soda last year. So I think these are going to be people who have like aren't necessarily in on the tribe. Like they're a little bit on the outskirts of the tribe dynamic, but they're going to be big enough characters, but they're not going to be our main characters. So at 12, I'm going to put Annika, and at 11, I'm going to put Sue, just because the both of them, I don't necessarily know where they're going to fall. And I just think it's funny because we have pretty much all the same except for one in this early portion. But I think, I think Annika and Sue, they have the potential to be longevity. They have potential to be early boots. So I'm going to put them right here in the middle. I think this is where we could lose both of them. I'm not sure. Who's going to be your 12 and your 11?
At 12, I'm going to have Sierra. I just don't see her moving through the majority of this game unscathed. Again, she's one of those people who reads like, I'm going to be a number for people if I'm left untouched for too long. And I think people are going to be smart about that. And then at 11, I have Kyle. I just think that his usefulness is going to wear off for people as well. And people will start to see him kind of as that GOAT. And I do think that there potentially could be other people who fit that GOAT that people will probably like attach to more throughout the rest of the season. So I could see him kind of like falling to the wayside in some way and being like the collateral damage of a vote where like an idol gets played or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, so you have Kyle as your first juror. I have Sue as my first juror. That's going to be a fun first juror if it's Sue. Who is going to be your 10th place, though? Who's going to be your second boot? This is the Tevin spot. Who's going to be that second casualty of the merge?
So I think Andy will lose the ability to kind of keep his threat level under wraps. And I
have Andy at 10 as well. Yeah, we're simpatico today, my friend.
Very
I have Andy at 10.
Very good. No, I think he's going to lose the ability to kind of keep himself under wraps, and he loses an immunity, and that's it. He's gone.
I think he's gonna be a big threat around this mid merge. And then at 9, since I have Andy as well, I have Sierra. This is where I have her. I have her at 9. I think she's gonna make it a few rounds further, but she's just someone who I think could be like an easy boot. Like, oh, she doesn't have an idol. Let's just get her. Maybe she's aligned with someone like Andy, and when Andy goes out, Sierra's next. I think this is where they start to get off like those big, strong people that could win some challenges. I could see Sierra doing that. And then at 8. I'll just go off my 8 too because it's someone else that I think is going to be like one of those challenge threats. This is similar to where Hunter was. I'm putting Kyle because I think this is where Kyle goes out because he's strong. Because I think they start to realize like he's just so likable, he's so nice. This is a good spot to snipe him out. So we've kind of have the same exact people, except you haven't said John yet, and I said Caroline.
Have I? I am now. It's 9. I think John is going to lose. I think he's going to lose an immunity challenge, and they're going to again kind of get the idea of you let him get to the end. He'll convince everyone. He does this for a living. This is who he is. And I think they'll take him out because they know that it's time. And then at 8, I have Rome. I think that Rome's run comes to an end at this point. If you notice, I still have a lot of that orange Lavo tribe.
Yeah, that foursome alliance, yeah.
And I think that that's going to be huge for them. But I think that at this point in the game, they are probably under the impression that they got to start cutting people because if they don't, they're like, for example, if we're going with this Asia Rome, like this kind of duo, if they don't cut one, the other's not going to take them to the end. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think Rome's going to kind of be the collateral in that.
So I'm just taking Jeff's word of the power shifts very strongly to where I think Asia and Rome run some of this early merge, and then I have Rome going out in 7. I am right after you have him, because I do think he's going to be one of those people where it's like we can't let him get any further. He's a little bit more the chaos that we expected Gabe to bring. Maybe Rome brings some of that. He says he's going to have some big moves. I think he makes a big move on like Andy or Sierra, and then he makes it one more round and gets cut. And I actually have right before. Actually, let me wait. Let me get your 7 and 6 first. But I have Rome at 7.
So at 7, I have Caroline.
I thought you were going to pick her as your winner.
Yeah, you did think I was going to pick her as my winner.
Okay.
Yeah, I switched it up on you. What I will say
you originally or no?
Caroline was an original winner pick for me, but I'll be honest, hearing your side, things change.
But you said you had okay. So is your winner pick not from Blue anymore?
No.
It's not.
No, it's not.
Oh, God, I was so excited. I was like, are we going to have the same winner pick? We're not.
Well, we weren't because it was Caroline originally, and I think I know who your winner pick is.
Okay, so I don't think who's going to be your first cut? Who's your last cut before the finale? So this is your who was it this past
number
season?
6?
Yeah, who was the person cut before the finale? It wasn't Maria. Who was Q, duh.
Q.
It's always a huge player. Omer, Q, Ricard.
That's at 6 for me. It's Solomon. It's Saul. Okay. I think that he goes. I think that's going to be devastating. I think he's going to be so good too, and I think that they're going to take him out at 6 because I think that like will he read as a GOAT potentially, but does that mean like he stays a GOAT? I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah. So I'm ready to see some. I'm ready to see him go out at like a point where we all don't want him to.
Yeah, at 6, this is where I think the power shift is going to come into play. I think they get out Rome, and then I think Asia's kind of on her own with Saul and Teeny not knowing what to do, and they take out Asia here. I think you can't let her get to the finale. It sucks. I want to root for her, but I'm being a little realistic. I think Asia's going to get cut before the finale here. Okay. So here we have our final 5. Let me just recap who yours are based on this. Your final 5 consists of TK and Tiana from Blue. It consists of Rachel from Yellow, and it consists of Asia and Teeny from red or orange, and mine consists of TK and Tiana from blue. It consists of Rachel from yellow, and it consists of Saul and Teeny. So we only have one difference in our final five.
Which
That
is
is
pretty
nuts.
crazy.
Okay, who's going out first in the finale though? Who is your big threat that you take out?
Dylan, you're gonna hate me, I think, but I think that Tiana goes out 5th.
I also think Tiana goes out 5th.
Wow, that's crazy.
Because again, it's the D thing. It's like you see someone like Tiana, you just don't let her get to fire making. Because the thing with fire making is like now Final Five is where you get out the biggest threat of the game because you can't let them get to fire making unless it's like Carson or Jesse who's bad at fire. Like you can't risk Tiana who's from Hawaii to go into a fire making job.
Correct.
You can't.
And I think that they notice that, they see it, and if she's not winning that final immunity, she's gone. It's over.
Okay, so we have 3 of the same final 4. I'm curious, does
Okay.
it keep up? Who is your fire-making loser? Who just misses?
This will be very cool if this is how it shakes up. Dylan, I also agree with you that I don't think Asia can make finals. Can make the final tribal
Asia's
council.
your final 4.
She has to lose in fire, and it is going to be devastating because every person in the world is going to be hoping that she does not lose that fire making, and she's going to.
I think the dynamic duo of Saul and Teeny is going to face off in fire, and it's going to be heartbreaking. And I'm thinking it's going to be Carson 2.0. I have Teeny being our fire-making loser. I think she's going to come so far, and it's just going to be like, we have to take her out. We're putting Saul against Teeny. So my final 3 ends up being from blue, TK, from yellow, Rachel, and from orange, Saul. That's my final 3. So
And I have the same thing except switch my orange. It's not Saul.
So we're both predicting TK, Rachel, and then one of the duo of Teeny and Saul. That's pretty insane. Like, we've never been this in line.
No, we've never been this aligned at the beginning.
I mean, the most separate we were is that I had Caroline at 15, you ever at 7. Everything else we're like within a few spots of one another. That's crazy. Okay, so who's your 0 or who's your 3rd place? Assuming there's 0 vote finalists, because no one has ever gotten a vote. No, the 3rd person has not gotten a vote in the new era yet.
I do think that it's going to come down to the fact that the other 2 speak better, have a better story, a better handle on the game, and I think Rachel ends up in 3rd place.
Okay, I think for the same reasons, I'm putting Saul in 3rd place. I just don't think he's going to have that willpower, which sucks because according to this ranking, I have Saul, Teeny, Rome, and Asia kind of dominating the game. I have them as 4 of the final 7, but I do think it's going to be kind of like a cookout thing where it's like you get out the best person first, Tiffany, then you get out Hannah, who's the next best, then Kylan, and then Xavier's left. He's great, but like, what if they had gone Xavier out at 3? Then you're left with Azza and Derek, who are clearly the bottom 2 of that alliance. I think that's what's going to happen. They take out Rome, they take out Asia, they take out Teeny, and then it's just Saul, but Saul can't really speak on all their games, which sucks because the way I'm going, Saul would probably place higher, but my final 2 are TK and Rachel. Who is going to be your winner though between TK and between Teeny? Who is your winner? Who's your runner-up?
Dylan, listen, I hate to say it, but I gotta rep Haley Keener in this draft. I think that TK is going to get 2nd, and I think it's going to be close, but I think Teeny is going to win the game, and I hope that that's true.
I love that.
Be so good. I would love it.
Yeah, I love Teeny, and she's a Jersey girl, so like I'm very hoping she makes it far, very much hoping she makes it far. But my final 2, I just think based on their charisma, I think Rachel's going to play a sneaky runner-up game, but I do think TK is going to take it. From the second I watched TK's video, I said, I'm picking that guy to win. I didn't even hear his strategy, and that's my one red flag is I don't really know strategically what he's going to do, but I didn't get that sense from Kenzie either. Kenzie was going in to play a fully social game, and she did that. TK is playing a fully social game with the added bonus of being athletic. And I think he's someone that I think I predicted Q to be until Q ended up being this like very random wild card player. I think TK is going to be Q with the demeanor of Kenzie, and I think that's going to be a lethal combination. So I think my final vote count, I'm thinking it's like a 6-2 vote. I think TK gets 6 votes. Rachel gets 2. Saul doesn't get any. But now that I'm thinking about it, Saul might get some based on who his allies are. Maybe Saul gets 1, Rachel gets 2, and TK gets 4. Let's do that for more fun. Let's do that. Let's do 4-2-1 vote. Right? It would be 4-2-1.
Yeah, I think
it would be 4-2-2. I'm gonna say it right now. 4-2-2. Let's say 4-2-2 vote. That's a shocking vote. And Rachel and Saul tie for the runner-up. I don't know. But it'll be exciting nonetheless. So just to recap, Zach's winner pick is Teeny Chirichillo from Manahawkin, New Jersey, and my winner pick is TK Foster from Upper Marlboro, Maryland. And that, friends, is our Survivor preseason predictions and cast assessment. Zach is hoping Genevieve goes first. I'm hoping Keyshawn goes first this next episode so we can pick up 18 strong points. Let's just say Caroline does go home. I'm going to pick up a whopping 15 points to Zach 7. Otherwise, we're all going to pretty much get the same amount of points. Pretty close.
Pretty good.
So we're going to be kind of close in this early season, but I'm hoping as the season goes on, we get a few more blindsides. If you don't remember, I put Venus at number 1 the week she went home. I put Tiffany close to the top the week she went home. Same as Hunter. Like I keep putting these people at the top. They keep going home. I'm wondering if that's going to keep up. Same with Jem. So I'm very, very curious to see how that goes. Starting on Wednesday, you can see our video that Matt and I did where we did a whole like going back through all the archives of Survivor. I'm picking who we think is going to be the representatives for Survivor 50 or who we're hoping to see. But this video is now, this is going to be posted Monday night. So you have 2 nights to watch. I hope you're watching Dancing with the Stars and enjoying it. On TikTok, you can see my predictions for that. Otherwise, Zach, anything else you can plug for us now?
No, you can go watch me play Survivor Animation if you want to watch Survivor Animation play.
I don't know you were
Survivor
playing
Animation play. I am. It's very fun, very exciting.
Are you like playing right now, or is it starting?
I am playing. We are at final 13 right now. So very fun, very cool. Yeah, I haven't been very vocal about it. There might be some people who are playing. I've shared it in my tribe chat. So if you're here, drop a comment. Very cool.
Yes, please do.
And that's really it.
Yeah, thank you for watching, and may the best man or woman or person win. It's going to be a great season no matter what. I mean, just the fact that we have familiar faces. We have Asia, we have Jen Love It. Just people we recognize, but also people who are hopefully going to become legends someday, like Rome. Gabe wants to be. We'll see if that happens. But again, these are players and people. We're talking about them as players, not people. So any hate that we give is purely because we don't have faith in them as players, but as people, we like them. So take with that what you will. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon. We're hoping to do Thursday nights is what it's looking like. Hopefully, so where we can like watch Survivor and Big Brother and have it ready for you Thursdays. If there's ever an issue, we will probably be weekends, but we're hoping to get weekly podcasts for you. We're going to make that our duty this week. Even if we have to record late at night or early in the morning, we'll make it happen. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and happy Survivor 47 season premiere. Let's go.